right. We're live. Welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast. I'm John McGlynn, and you can find me on the Twitter machine at John McGlynn75. Today, I had the pleasure of talking with one of my favorite Irishmen, Evan Brown of the Dynasty Debates podcast. We'll talk about his life and career inside and outside fantasy football, his hobbies, some other fun questions, and then we'll jump into some commissioner stuff, that settings he prefers in leagues he plays in, NFL news and rumors, free agency thoughts. Then we'll review some trades that went down in the Mighty McGlynn home leagues. Then, as usual, we'll evaluate a team to see if you recommend a rebuild or just remodel the roster that was provided to us. So we'll do that. I'd like to thank Nick Script, P2W at P2W Fantasy, for letting me use the airwaves here. I'd like to do this little show on his YouTube channel. So please, if you get a chance, follow him on Twitter, subscribe to this YouTube channel. He's really looking forward to establishing his brand on TikTok, on everything. He's working his way up so hard in this fantasy community. So at any point in time, if you see me or any of his work, please subscribe to his channel because the guy is absolutely awesome.
Agreed.
I play to win, no fear to give. I feel, but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, I won't regret. I pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win. I play to win, yeah, I play to win. I play to win, oh, play to win. I play to win, yeah, I play to win. I play to win.
All right. First of all, Evan, tell me about yourself, where Twitter machine can find you, and what you do in the fantasy football world that makes people want to follow you. You're on mute.
I'm not sure if I do anything that makes people want to follow me, but if you like nonsense and just random talking about football all the time, then yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FFEvanlution. So like revolution with my name in it. So welcome to the Evanlution. And Dynasty Debates is my podcast. Started up last year, week 1 of the NFL season. Weekly show, have awesome guests on all the time. Right now we're going through a bunch of rookies, getting ready for those rookie drafts. We're doing a building the big board series, so had a lot of awesome guests on, having some more awesome guests on. It's a good time. And I do some writing. I'm a featured writer over at Dynasty Nerds, and I also do Superflex tight end premium rankings for them at Dynasty Nerds. So that's pretty much what I'm up to in the fantasy space, and then obviously coming on really cool shows like this. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
This might be the coolest show you're ever going to be on, just so you know. Okay.
Right. I mean, that is quite possibly true.
We just got done with St. Patrick's Day around here. Tell me about St. Patrick's Day in Ireland. I'm envisioning some kind of a fun but not as wild as a version of Mardi Gras type of atmosphere, like in the States. But tell me what goes on in Ireland, because I've never been there before, and it's one of my dream destinations.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you go, I suppose. I'm in Belfast, so I'm in Northern Ireland, and we do have St. Patrick's Day here, obviously, and do a parade and all that sort of stuff. But I've been down to Dublin a few times for St. Paddy's Day, and it's awesome down there. Like, it's proper, it's funny, actually, there's a lot of Americans come over for St. Patrick's Day in Dublin and stuff like that. Like, every year we've been down. I've been 3 or 4 times for the parade, and they've even got like a couple of like marching bands that come over from the States, from like Chicago and Boston and stuff like that, and they're in the parade as well. So it's awesome. And like in Dublin, it's crazy. It's, as you can imagine, like the streets are just flooded with people who been on the Guinness and been on the sauce, and they're enjoying themselves quite liberally. But it's great, man. Like it's in Dublin, it's brilliant. They have, like, depending on when it is, they usually have, well, obviously COVID was crazy for a couple of years there, but
yeah,
in general, they would have like, make it a 2 or 3 day event. They'd have the proper parade and everything on the day, but they would have like events for, a couple of days before and stuff like that. So they got stuff for the kids to do and things like that as well. But obviously the day itself is pretty mental, like all over the place, like absolutely crowded, so it's good fun. Like it is good fun.
The crack is great, huh?
The crack's 90.
That's absolutely awesome. We have the downtown St. Patrick's Day parade, and every city has a different St. Patrick's Day parade. But the Southside Irish Parade in Chicago is, I've been in that one my entire life. So it's I haven't gone. I didn't go this year or last year because of work and getting off work at a certain time. But we start drinking at about 9 o'clock around here. Like you get off work, hit the bars, have a good day. It's with family and corned beef sandwiches and Guinness and car bombs and all that stuff, and it's just it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it is. It's honestly though, I would say like it's probably even a bigger deal in the States than it is over here. As far as like Dublin itself is massive with it, but big massive parade and all that sort of stuff. But like, with the whole like I know some places, I think in Chicago and stuff like that, they like dye the river green and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, don't they? And Boston does that, I think, and that kind of stuff. So it's almost like even a bigger thing over there than it is over here sometimes. I suppose like it's not to get too political or anything, but like in the north here in Northern Ireland, it can be quite a divided community because there's the
sure.
whole troubles and the back history there of like Protestant, Catholic, and things like that. And St. Patrick's Day is more seen of like as like a southern tradition, like the Republic of Ireland. So some people maybe not as interested in it or is not as keen on it, maybe from more Protestant community background and things like that. So it can be a little bit more divisive possibly here in the north, but in general, like over the island, yeah, like it's still a pretty massive deal, as you can imagine.
Yeah, the bars around the ring of Cork and Kerry have to be a madhouse at that point in time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, we were down in, like I said, we were down in Dublin there a few times for St. Paddy's Day, and like it was mad, like trying to get into some of the classic, bars down in the main strip and everything. It's just like, it's good luck, good luck to you trying to get in there and get a pint.
Yeah, right. That's how it is here up and down the western bars. There's literally from 97th Street to 115th Street on one main side of the road. It's bar, a restaurant, a pizza place, bar, and every bar is packed shoulder to shoulder like sardines in a can. You can't even get a beer for a half hour at a time. So
Yeah.
it's great. It's an awesome time.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you said, it's just a party atmosphere, just it is cool. Like I think the great thing about like Irish people is just, they're just so much fun. And
Yeah,
it was hilarious. I was with my friend few years back when we were traveling in Europe actually, and we were in Budapest, and there's like they have these like rune bars, rune pubs that they call them, and they're like 3 or 4 stories, and they have like a different theme on every floor.
yeah.
And we were in one, and we were, it was actually the week that David Bowie died, and there was a guy playing David Bowie, like flipping David Bowie vinyls, and he was like, he's from France, and he had just the proper like blue and white stripes. It just so looks stereotypical French, and he's like playing these like David Bowie tracks, and we're sitting there having a couple beers and chatting, and out on the dance floor there's this guy just absolutely acting like a buck Egypt, and just like absolutely just like almost getting himself kicked out of the place, right? And my friend looks at me and he's like, guarantee you he's Irish, I guarantee you he's Irish. And then we go over and like he ran into this other guy, and they all looked like they were about to fight, and then the guy's like, they started talking to each other, and he's like, I'm from Dublin, and he's like, I'm from Cork, and they were just like hugging, and they were just like, I was like, I knew it. Everywhere you go, you're gonna find them. Like it was just hilarious. Like you just see them across the room, and you're like, yep, they're Irish.
I a little ad lib here. Um, how do Irish people get the money to travel so much? Everybody I know that's from Ireland, it's been everywhere in the world, Australia, all over Europe. They've been to the United States. They've been everywhere. I mean, the people that are from Ireland, the mainland of Ireland, have been everywhere in the world. How do you travel so much? I don't know how. I've been to 43 states in America alone, and I've been to Mexico and Canada for Niagara Falls, but that's it. Like I haven't been anywhere near Europe. How do you guys travel so much?
Well, I think part of it is a lot of it is like the time off over here. So like for example, most places that you work, you're gonna get like 4 to 6 weeks of holiday allowance every year, versus like over there in the States, you only get like what, 2 weeks?
Well, if you work for a contractor, you get these 0 days off. Like when I worked for electricians union here, it's if you took a week off to go to Disney World with your family, you did not get paid for the week, and everything you spent there was so you get no vacation days unless you work in like a a public union or you work in an office setting that gives you
Yeah.
holidays. But when you work for a private contract like a union electrician or carpenter or something like that,
Yeah.
you're not afforded vacation.
That's mental to me. That's like insane to me because, like I said, most jobs over here, really doesn't have to be like a high profile job. Just any sort of job, really. Like if you work in a shop or something, you probably get 4 to 6 weeks a year holiday. Like it's kind of statutory to get that much holiday. So I think there's the time off element where we're afforded that time to be able
Makes
to travel
sense.
and stuff. And then as far as traveling in Europe and things, up until coronavirus, obviously it was pretty cheap. Like there was a lot of low cost airlines like Ryanair and EasyJet and stuff like that, where you could, I've flown to, like, I love travel, and I've flown to, I remember one year, took my wife as a surprise for her birthday. We flew to Brussels, and from Dublin to Brussels for like a tenner. Like it was like €10 or something like that for the flight.
Jeez.
And obviously it was expensive while we were there.
Sure,
Belgium
right.
is a pretty expensive country, but to get there, that's the hard part a lot of times. So I think trips like to America and stuff like that, it's more just like you save up and then you can go because you have the time. But little trips like to Europe and things like that, I mean, used to, again, before pre-COVID, like, my wife's birthday's in January, so it's a pretty grim time of year here with weather and
Yeah,
stuff like
right.
that. So we would tend to just take a little, like 4 or 5 days and go over to Spain or something like that. But a lot of times we used to be able to find flights for like 40 quid or something, just to go over to Spain, which is like ridiculously cheap if you think about it. So yeah, it's just, I think it's before COVID. Obviously things have changed a bit now, but like I think it was time off, and then the cost of traveling, at least in Europe, was pretty cheap. And then I think in general, like people over here just have, wanderlust a bit. So I
Yeah.
think that they they save up and use that money to travel, to get that bug, out of the
Yeah.
system a little bit.
Did you say €10 to fly?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's literally like $13 or something. Like, or what
Yeah.
is it now? The conversion rate? Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
yeah. I
Like,
mean, honestly, there's been times, right? I'm not even joking you. Like, this is a few years ago, but like, there'd be like, 24-hour sales with like Ryanair, where I remember once, because my wife's from England originally. I remember once we bought flights for like £1. Like it was like a £1 flash sale from like Belfast or Dublin, I can't remember which, to London for like £1. And it was just like ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand how they do that, but it's not that good anymore. But you can still find really good flights. Like you can still find like Disneyland Paris, for example. That's our closest
yeah,
Disneyland, and Paris is only about an hour and a half flight away. An hour and a half, 2 hours. I think it's about an hour and a half, and like you could find flights from Dublin to Paris like for 60, 70 quid sometimes.
wow.
So I
That's
think that's one of the big enablers.
yeah, right.
Um,
That's
but
that's
it's a bit
amazing.
different now with COVID and everything. But now that and obviously the war in Ukraine,
Yeah,
Ukraine and
right.
stuff. So there's a lot going on. But that's how it worked up until recently.
Have you ever been to the Guinness Brewery? And
Oh
how good is
yeah,
how
yeah.
good
I've
is
been
the
there a
Guinness
couple
in
of
Ireland?
times. That's great, man. Like it's whenever I go over to the States and stuff, like I don't really drink Guinness because it just tastes different, to be honest. Like it just tastes different. Like over here it's so smooth, and it's like a meal in and of itself, You just have a Guinness or two and you don't even need meals, like probably the same calories as a meal. But yeah, it's great, man. Like it's from the top over here, you can't beat it.
Just there's only a handful of places in America that have what I consider good Guinness anyway. And everybody, I mean, you go places now, they give you a plastic cup, they pour it real fast and serve it to you. Like it's absolute garbage. And there's some places that really take their time, and they will, they'll pour half the cup, let it settle, let it settle, and then the second half, when it's ready, when it's settled, going, you'll hand you your beer, and they'll create a shamrock on the top of the foam, so that they that when it's served to you, there's a shamrock on top of the foam, and it tastes so much better. It depends on what temperature they keep it at, how often they clean the lines, all that kind of stuff. But it's very hard to find a good pint of Guinness here, and what I
Yeah.
consider a good pint. You don't even drink this stuff over here because it tastes like shit. I can't wait to go to Ireland one day, and really, I'm going to sit at the top of the Guinness Brewery and just and I don't know what I'm gonna do. There and the Jameson Distillery are gonna be like that's my two like bucket list places in my whole life.
Yeah, they have a bar right at the top. They have a pub like right at the top of the Guinness factory that you can sit and like look over the city and stuff and have a Guinness.
I heard. Oh man.
Sorry,
Uh,
not to make you jealous.
um, yeah, the Jameson Distillery. You ever been there?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't. Every time I've been down and doing that kind of stuff, we've always gone to the Guinness factory. We've gone there 2 or 3 times, and then I've just never gone to the Jameson distillery. I should. I had a really fun time with a buddy. Actually, came over and visited from the States, and we hired a car and went over to Scotland, and we did like a little distillery tour in Scotland. We went to like 3 or 4 different distilleries, like dotted around, and that was really fun. Like just going on a little like tour, just as brosifs. So I should definitely. I've been to the Bushmills distillery. That's only about 45 minutes away from my house, about 45 minutes to an hour away from where I live. Been there, done the tour and stuff, but haven't done Jameson yet. I need to do that.
I can't believe it. I literally got like 38-liter bottles of Jameson for my 40th birthday, and like I went through them in like a month and a half. It's like Guinness, Jameson in my garage is what most people have, like water in their house. It's we go through it a lot here, a lot of shots, a lot of car bombs, a lot of stuff like that all the time. So I can't wait. I'm gonna. That's 2 places. I'm just gonna make that happen one day, with or without my family. I don't care, but I'm going. I'm going.
You should, man.
Have you ever done an Irish car bomb? The drink?
Yes, yeah. We don't really
Yes.
have them over here, but I have done them. Yeah. So it's like half a Guinness and then a shot of half Jameson, half Bailey's, isn't it? And then you drop it in.
Well, I do like 3/4 of a pint glass of Guinness, and then I'll put like
Yeah,
I'll do a full shot of Jameson and just drop it, like drop the shot in there, and then
yeah.
it's a full shot of Bailey's too, and you just dump the
Okay.
glass in there and just poof. You can't let the Bailey sit too long. We have
It
to put
curdles, doesn't it, or
if you put
something?
if you put the whiskey in first, it'll curdle real fast. If you don't put any whiskey in, like
Yeah,
some people do, that's why they do it with other like other mixtures, because
yeah,
Jameson curdles it real fast. So, but I drink it real fast, and that's when you put the Baileys in very last, and just shoot it right away, and it's fine. So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's kind of a staple for the McGlynn diet over here.
yeah. A breakfast.
Yeah. How are most of the bars? I grew up in the West Lawn neighborhood in Chicago, and most places, they that I went to anyway had live acoustic music. The Fields of Athenry, Kiss Me I'm Irish, The Moonshiner, Wild Rover, Johnny Jump Up, and all the some American like Southside Irish and stuff like that. How was the
Yeah.
experience of like a Irish acoustic bar like in Ireland? Are they most of the bars like that, or?
It's a mixture, yeah. I mean, because you've definitely
Uh,
got like your traditional Irish pubs for sure.
and I've named some songs that probably aren't too popular in the Northern Ireland, but it's
Yeah. Yes. So that's the thing is like, so there's definitely pubs like that in Belfast you can go to, and there's live music, and they call it trad music. There's trad music and stuff like that. So you definitely still can get that for sure, 100%. But if you go down south as well, especially, yeah, that's like everywhere, all the little towns, and like everywhere you go, there's always going to be open music, like live music nights, or
yeah.
some places have it every night of the week. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I mean, I love it. It's funny because so I have a really weird sort of history backstory. So my family heritage and everything like that is from Ireland, but I was actually born in America. So I was born in Alaska and grew up there as like a kid and everything like that. So I spent like 18 years of my life or something there. And then all my adult life I've been in Northern Ireland. So all my adult life and all my experiences as an adult, like going to pubs and all that sort of stuff, is here, and work here, got married here, have my kids here. But then my memories as a kid and growing up are in Alaska and like in America. So like I totally understand, like, well, to some extent, like I understand, I can relate to people like, American, culture, and like, the way of looking at things and thinking of things. But then it's just it's such a weird sort of, because I'm 36 now, so I've lived like basically as long of my life almost here as I have
Right.
in Ireland, in America. So it's very weird kind of culmination of things. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely, going like down south and stuff, it's amazing. Like, I love, one of my favorite things to do is like, I have a Volkswagen camper van. So that was one of my bucket list things, was I wanted to get a Volkswagen camper van. So I got a camper van, and there's the thing called the Wild Atlantic Way. So it's a highway that goes from like down in Cork in the south all the way up to Donegal in the north, all
Hmm.
along the western seaboard of Ireland. So all along the Atlantic coast. That's why it's called the Wild Atlantic Way, and it's just incredible. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do. Is just I took the camper van down there a couple of times, and you just go all along south and the west coast of Ireland, and there's little towns every couple of miles, and you can stop wherever you want, and you just sort of stop. And me and my friend once we did it together, like in November or something. It was quite late in the year, and it was amazing because it was just one of those times where we went down, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Dingle, but it's
Yeah.
such a
My friend Eugene Moriarty lives in Dingle. I actually had he Skyped me on his helmet on his bike ride. He had his GoPro, and he was taking me around the town of Dingle to the Three Mermaids and all the other bars that are in that
Yeah,
area. Yeah,
it's one of
it's a,
the it's such a beautiful place in Ireland. So we it was funny because we were going on this tour, just that part of the country, and we got into Dingle and it was quite late, and we like we'd been staying in the camper van the last few nights, and we wanted to stay in like a hotel or like a it was actually more of like a yeah, it was pretty much a hotel. It was like a mix between a hotel and a I don't know what you guys would call them.
like a hostel kind of or something like
Yeah,
that.
hostel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you guys used the term hostel over there, I wasn't sure. But yeah, so we kind of stayed there, and it was the craziest thing because we got there, we went into the first pub and they were like, oh no, we got to the hostel and they were like, oh, are you here for the are you here for the
For the game
are you
bang,
are you here for the what was it, the concert, or no, what they call it,
the festival,
the festival? Are you here for the festival? And we're like, what festival? And they're like, oh, I thought you were here for the festival. And it just so happened it was just one of those weird, crazy, like magical, like fortuitous moments in life where we just showed up the night before, or the night, yeah, it was the night before this big like 3-day long festival was gonna happen called like Other Voices. And it was like all these like acts from all over Ireland and even some from other places, and just descended on the town of Dingle. And like honestly, we stayed there that night, then we stayed the next night as well. And the whole town, like there's probably 30 or so pubs. Every single pub was open, and everybody, there was live music in every single pub. And like everybody, we were just like wandering from pub to pub listening to different bands, and everyone's having a drink, and it's just such a great atmosphere, and everybody's just chatty and fun, and it was just amazing. Like, so stuff like that happens over here all the time. It's incredible. You just sort of like end up sitting having pints and chatting to somebody, having a couple whiskeys, and like all of a sudden it's like 2 a.m. and you've been chatting away for like hours, and like
I know,
what
I know it
it's
all
just,
too well.
it's incredible. There's just such a friendly people as well, so just yeah, just great crack.
Yeah, it's called Tuesday for me. Like, oh man, that's good. I love the stories. So what's your favorite part of the whole fantasy football experience? Like, do you like, is it DFS stuff, best ball, dynasty, Debbie? Are you in a Debbie? Like, I know you're in a Debbie. I'm just kind of asking. These are general questions for everybody.
Dynasty for me, definitely. That's my show's Dynasty Debates. I love Dynasty. I mean, I like most people, I think I got into redraft initially. And then I'm, a bit of a degenerate, and I was just like, this isn't enough. I don't like this. Like, I don't like, the long off season, because it's only like a 3 or 4 month long season. And then if you're only doing redraft, it's such a long off season, because I think if you're in redraft, you don't get as excited about rookies. You don't get as excited about the draft and stuff like that. I mean, you do some sort of from like an NFL, like your team perspective, but you're not as into it, because a lot of times, unless it's a running back and stuff, you're probably not even really looking to draft them much as a rookie, in your redraft league. So it's just so different, and I'm not, obviously I know a lot of people love redraft a lot, so I'm not like knocking them or whatever, but just for me, I as well, like I love trading. And so for me, like what would happen is, I would draft this team, and then I would spend all season like trading like crazy. And then by the end of the year, I'd have this incredible team that was like gangbusters. And then I'd be like, oh, like I got to start all over again next year. And you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to have, Zeke and Mixon and this and that and the other all on my team. I'm going to have to start over from scratch. So I just loved the idea of having a team, and that you work so hard, and you kind of craft it and mold it into what you want it to be. And then that's your team, and you kind of are in control of the destiny of that team. So I quite like that element of Dynasty, and it's just, yeah, I love the complexity of having to, sell high and figure out when to get out from under players, even though they're still good, because their value is going to dip. And I just love all those different elements of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was definitely a redraft guy for I don't know how many years, and I'm like, I'm never going down a rabbit hole of Dynasty. I'm never doing that. And then probably 6 years ago now, 7 years ago now, probably, I started my first Dynasty, and I've never looked back. As a matter of fact, I don't even like playing redraft anymore. It's like you said, it's a horse race. If a couple of you guys get hurt, or if I've been in leagues before where I was the highest score after week 9 or week 7, and I was 0-7. And I'm like, how am I have more points than anybody else, and I'm not going to make the playoffs now because I'm 0-7? It's just there's so many traps in the redraft world that it's ridiculous. And like you said, I like to trade. I call this the bad trading season. Most people call it the non-point scoring season, but now everybody's trying to get rid of their shitty players, the guys that aren't going to pan out. So you're sending 3-for-1s or 4. I did that. I've been doing that since the end of the season, trying to get rid of my third string running backs or my fourth string wide receivers, trying to get somebody I think is going to, Terrace Marshalls or something like that who didn't pan out, and it's just fun. You waste a lot of time sending the trades out. People get pissed off once in a while, like, why would I do that for? It doesn't make any sense for my roster. Blah blah blah. I don't give a shit. I'm just having fun sending out bad trades. This is what I like to do. So.
Yeah, at least you can own it. At least some people are in denial that they send out bad trades. At least you can own it.
Well, I pretend like I'm not, sending out bad trades, but I know I'm sending out bad trades.
Yeah.
So
no, definitely.
I listened to your Christian Williams podcast yesterday. It came on this morning across my iTunes account. So I'm in a league with Christian, like a Debbie league or Campus Can league. Anyway, Nate? Was it Nate or Christian?
Nate Christian.
Oh yeah. So
from Dynasty Rewind.
Was that the one? Was that yesterday's one?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Then I was listening.
Well, there was one for Monday. Was Alfred Fernandez from Campus to Canton, and then yesterday. Today's one was Nate.
I got the days mixed up. I think it was. I listened to some of the conversation there, and it's. I just joined my first Campus Canton league this year, so
nice one.
I know how you. I listened to what you know about incoming rookies and stuff like that, and how much work you put into it. And I'm kind of thinking I made a mistake because we had a 35 round rookie draft and a 35 round NFL draft and a 35 round campus draft. And after like round 4, I had no idea who anybody was. Like I drafted 31 rounds pretty much blind, and we'll see how guys pan out.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're braver than me. I haven't even got into Campus to Canton leagues yet or anything because I just don't have time, like over here as well, like with the time difference, and they don't play as much college football and stuff over here. So with the amount of time and energy that I spend on like NFL stuff and then like draft season and, getting prepped for that and then podcasts and writing and everything, I just don't have time. Like, I think my wife would murder me if I was like, okay, Saturdays as well, or like football. And then like you say, I mean, because I know myself and I know that if I got into it would just be like an addiction and I would just go down the rabbit hole because I made the mistake a couple of years ago of trying IDP and then like I went down that rabbit hole and like it's good, I really like it. I'm not an IDP analyst or anything like that, but I do have a good few IDP leagues now, and I think it is really fun because it teaches you about the other side of the football and it gives you more respect and more appreciation for the defense and like what the defense is doing and how the defense works. But at the same time, it's certainly a whole nother learning curve, learning a whole new set of players and a new way of like dealing with things. So I think Debbie's then just another step again, where you're like trying to study these like freshmen and like incoming high schoolers, and it's just it's wild.
I drafted a couple kids that played with my son in high school. Like one kid, he was a scholarship from Notre Dame, and then he jumped ship, and now he's a quarterback for Northwestern in Illinois. And another kid plays for Colorado. So I'm drafting these kids who are the same age as my son, and it's super cool that's going on. But I don't understand. I listen to like 50 podcasts and I take notes when I get a chance to, but I don't ever I have a laptop. I do these podcasts on. Other than that, most of the stuff I do is on my phone. So I take notes a lot and stuff, but it gets to the point sometimes where I'm like, where did he go again? What teams?
No, exactly.
And my head gets so jumbled. If I had to do IDP too, like, I don't know what I would do. Like I have no idea.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so because I mostly do offense, I've got a few IDP leagues that I try and stay on top of. For me, I'm just like, I can't go down the Campus to Canton Debbie, like rabbit hole, because I would literally get divorced and live in a cave somewhere and just like study spreadsheets all day or something.
I feel like I do that now anyway, but I got a great wife, and it's lets me do this stuff. But like I said, a lot of people are doing this for a career or working their way up and stuff. This is my hobby. This is, instead of going hunting or fishing or stuff like that, I like to write stuff down, listen to podcasts, and do my own podcast once in a while. And this is, I have a blast. This is my idea. This is my hobby. So
yeah,
I love it.
That's awesome.
Outside of the fantasy football world, family, kids, you mentioned before you had a little family going on. What's the story with that?
Yeah, I've got a 10-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter, so pretty big age gap. But they definitely keep me busy. So My son's just started martial arts there, so he's really loving that. He's really excited. I actually took him to practice there tonight and stuff. So yeah, he is a great kid. He's really smart. He's studying for he's got like there's like a test that they have to take over here, like after well, it's only in Northern Ireland, I suppose, but after like their primary school, they take a test and it kind of helps them basically decide if they're going to what's called a grammar school
Hmm.
or I don't want to get too technical, but anyways, it's like, are you going to like smart person school or dumb person school, basically? So he's having to study hard and like, we're having to like get a tutor for him and all that kind of stuff. So he's got a lot going on. And then my daughter's only 2, so she's just loving life, running around, being crazy. And I'm gonna have to start taking jujitsu myself so I can beat up all the dudes that are gonna come try and talk to her when she's a teenager. So
Oh man,
yeah, it's
it's so
crazy, man.
bad. It's so bad when they become. My oldest one's 25. I have a 25, a 21-year-old, and then I got 18 and 16-year-old girls. And it's the teenagers. Around the time they get in, like the girls, when they get around sixth, seventh grade, like when they have sex education and all that stuff, kind of comes in there. You become the enemy. Like you're a dad. You're just you're one of them now. You're a man. You're the enemy. That kind of stuff. And then a couple years later, they kind of come back, and then daddy. But my whole life, I was dressing up, putting lipstick on and doing my hair and having tea parties, and
Yeah,
I was marrying my daughters every other day, that kind of stuff. It's
yeah.
little girls are so much fun, and
Oh
then
yeah,
like they come back around though, around like freshman, sophomore year of high school, they come back around, and all of a sudden I get the kiss on the cheek every day when we're on the way to school or on the way to work or everything else like that. So they do come back around. Don't just those couple years are going to be tough, but it is what it is. So
yeah.
and
I
then
know.
yeah, we have a term for what you said about which determining which school they are. And it's called the world needs ditch diggers. So if you're going to be a tradesman, you go to trade school, and if you're smart, you go to like
Yeah,
accounting or tax school. But
yeah.
the world needs ditch diggers, and I'm a ditch digger. I'm one of the guys who I could not fare well in college, and I could never see myself in a cube farm like doing paperwork and stuff all day long. I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
I would go nuts. I would just jump out the window, I think.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, man, is like you said, even with your podcasting and stuff, it's like just be happy with what you do. If you found something that makes you happy or you enjoy and you can get by with, like just that's awesome because so many people are really unhappy in life, and
Yeah,
even
right.
there's some people that are really, really rich and seem really successful that are just miserable, and
Yeah.
they hate everything and they're just unhappy people. So if you're enjoying what you do, man, that's you've won, like that's one of my favorite quotes is like John Lennon. I don't know if you heard this, but like when he was a kid, he says, when I was a kid, my mom taught me that the meaning of life was to be happy was happiness. And then when his school teacher basically asked them to write down what they wanted to be when they grew older, and he wrote happy, and the teacher told him he didn't understand the assignment, and he told his teacher, you don't understand life.
Yeah. No, I've heard that 100 times already.
Yeah,
It's a
because
great life lesson.
one of my favorite stories I always remind myself of.
If you value your life by your bank account instead of your accomplishments and with your family, that you're not doing it right. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, but
totally.
you got any hobbies before fantasy football, or like I know you grew up in what part of Alaska are you from? First of all.
Um, so I was born in a really small town called Palmer.
Oh yeah.
It's like 6,000 people or something, and it's about an hour away from Anchorage.
Hmm.
So Anchorage is like the biggest city in Alaska. So yeah, I mean, growing up there, like I was definitely around like hunting and fishing and all that sort of stuff. We don't really do that as much. There's good fishing and stuff over here,
Yeah.
a lot of good salmon fishing and things like that in the rivers and stuff, trout and things like that. But to be honest with you, I mean, my biggest hobbies are travel. I love travel. Absolutely love traveling and try and do it as much as I possibly can. I really enjoy music. I play guitar. I haven't played much the last couple of years, but I've played guitar for a long time and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I love music, listening to music, and I just love the emotion and stuff of music, and I love the way it can, really just speak to you and stuff like that. And I love the combination of travel and music. So
Hmm.
like one thing I always try and do is like when I'm going to a new place, I try and find some music from that place, and I listen to it. And like I remember the first time visiting like Vienna and like, putting on like Mozart as like we're on the train like over the river, into Vienna. And it was just like this is a pretty magical experience.
Yeah.
You just feel the vibes, that a music kind of emote from certain areas of the world, like especially, driving down south in my camper van, listening to, Irish tunes and stuff like that, and it's just like, it's just beautiful, and even like Belfast, I don't know if you know, Van Morrison at all,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
Van Morrison's from Belfast.
Brown eyed
And
girl.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was driving, it was funny because I was driving my van with my son, and we drive around like in the summer and stuff together, just driving around and listening to music and stuff. And I was, I was listening to, and then Van Morrison came on, and I was listening to, like, the song, oh, what is it? Not Brown Eyed Girl. It's,
Uh,
oh, what is it? It's
the
the,
Moonlight song, or
no, it's the one about the name of the street, Cypress Avenue.
okay.
And, so it's literally Cypress Avenue, and we were driving past Cypress Avenue as it was on. Like it was like, and that's a street
Nice.
in East Belfast where he was like sort of from and everything. So it's just stuff like that is really beautiful, when you can find those sort of, and even when we were in America, like we go visit like my family and stuff, and we were driving to see the redwoods in California, and we were going up into Northern California, and I was so excited to see these redwoods. And we got up there and we went off onto the Avenue of the Giants. There's this road called the Avenue of the Giants, and that's where all the biggest like redwoods are in Northern California. And we've been listening to the radio this whole time, and I'm not even kidding you. Like it was like a movie. It was like the minute we pulled off of the main highway onto the Avenue of the Giants, which is like an old, like, old school 2-lane highway, and
Hmm.
like we start passing in. The minute that happens, Hotel California by the Eagles comes on the radio, and it was
Uh,
just like the most surreal experience. Like it was magical, So I love stuff like that. I love music and travel, and the way they can kind of just really transport you to a different world, at times.
yeah. I was there. What's that? The General Custard or something like that, or General something was the biggest redwood tree. Like I said,
Yes,
I've been to
General Sherman or something
General
like that, is it?
Sherman, or
Or
yeah, we've been to 43 states, and me and my wife went there for her 30th birthday, or her 40th birthday or something. And we went to the Fisherman's Wharf and all that stuff, and went up and down California, all the vineyards. That's what she wanted to do, go wine tasting. So, but we went and saw the redwoods, and everybody said how big they were, but when you get there and you look up, you're like, you can't even see the
yeah,
top of the trees. It's absolutely magical in there.
it feels like, yeah, it feels like a different world. You
Yes,
like look at it. I took some pictures, and you go back and look at them, and you're like, it just feels like you're in some sci-fi world or something. It
right,
just doesn't feel real.
right. It's awesome. I love traveling. That's one of my favorite parts to go to United States is Bryce Canyon, in Utah. It's absolutely awesome. It's one of the best views that I've ever seen in my life. Everywhere around that Utah and Wyoming and all, that's the most beautiful place on earth as far as I'm concerned that I've been to so far. Anyway, Niagara Falls is pretty nice, but, but the Grand Canyon, all the stuff around there, around that Utah Wyoming area is absolutely phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
um, so everybody has a favorite player that they would. We're kind of jumping around over here, but I'm glad
Yeah.
we're talking about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone has a favorite player they would like to have on their fantasy football team, or, for reasons that they're good, or just their favorite player. Who's your favorite player that you root for, like outside of fantasy football, and your favorite player you have on your fantasy football teams?
Ooh, um, I'm a Vikings fan, so I've been a Vikings fan since Randy Moss. And well, no, actually, before that, to be fair, like when I was first a Vikings fan, it was when Warren Moon was the quarterback.
Yeah,
So quite a while ago. And so as a Vikings fan, I love Justin Jefferson. Absolutely love Justin Jefferson. Sadly, I only have him in like one or two leagues. So it's just because a lot of leagues I play in now are super flex. So he's
yep,
always going like either right before I can get to him or, because I'm needing a quarterback or something like that. So it's just unfortunate. I only have him in like one or two leagues, but I love Justin Jefferson. Love to have him on every league.
yeah. Good luck with that
One of
now.
my favorite guys just in general is DJ Moore. I think he's my most rostered player in Dynasty. I have him in so many leagues. He's been hard to get last year or two just because he's been going really high. But yeah, he's definitely one. I think he's my most roster. He's definitely one of my most rostered players. I just love DJ Moore. So big DJ Moore fan. I just feel sorry for him that he can never get a good quarterback, But yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys like that, that I just absolutely love and would be happy to have on every squad.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Chris Godwin injury last year, I have Chris Godwin and DJ Moore literally on almost every team and every league I have. And I really thought that both of those guys, if there's a good quarterback, ends up Kenny Pickett goes to Carolina, and now that if somehow some way Godwin gets back on the field in week 1, which I hope happens, that tandem I think next year could be dangerous in Dynasty for the next couple of years. I just love them as my wide receiver, 2 good wide receiver 2s to have. They're not number 1 players on anybody's team, but they're great number 2 receivers to have on your team.
Yeah, they're great guys. I mean, they're just so talented. It's just so frustrating. Like you say, even just like average quarterback play would be such an improvement for
Yeah,
DJ. Even if he could just get an average quarterback, he'd probably be a top 12, wide receiver for fantasy. So
yeah. Um, let's see. What's your favorite Sunday? Well, now that the draft's coming up, what's your favorite Sunday afternoon munching food when you're watching Scott Hansen or Red Zone, or I don't know if you even watch that or what time you get to watch football at. But now
yeah, I mean,
for the NFL draft, what do you like to have for your foods too?
I do watch the Red Zone. Definitely love Red Zone. It's a really fun way to watch because it's so limiting to just watch one game. Like I actually have NFL Game Pass, so it's nice to go back and watch the condensed games, where you can really just focus on maybe one particular matchup or something like that and catch up on what happened. But for Sunday evening, that's the thing with the time difference. It's so funny because to me, NFL is like a Sunday evening tradition, whereas like in the States, it's like a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon thing. So NFL Red Zone starts at 6 p.m. here, and it goes to like midnight or just after midnight or something. So like I always miss Sunday night football. Sunday night football is always kicking off like about 1 a.m. my time.
Mm.
So I always have to watch it on catch up, like with my Game Pass or whatever. So I'll go back and watch like the condensed version the next day or the day after. So like I pretty much miss, like, basically what'll happen is by the time the first game of the season, the first Thursday night football game gets here, I'm so like jonesing for some football that I'll stay up and watch the Thursday night football game,
Yeah.
even though it's like 3 a.m. But then most of the year, obviously with work and family and all that kind of stuff, you're just like, I miss usually Thursday night games and Monday night games, and then I just have to watch them back or, catch up on them and things like that. So, yeah, it's definitely a different experience. Sunday evenings is my football time with the NFL Red Zone. So a lot of times I've already had dinner or something like that by the time it's starting. So I'll just chill with a couple drinks or something like that and watch it.
I honestly believe that the Central Time Zone of the United States is the best time to watch football because everything starts at noon. So you can get up in the morning, have breakfast at 9 o'clock or 8:30 or 9. Get up, I can go to a Bears game if I want to. Show up there at 10:30. You already had breakfast. You went to the bathroom, got everything out, had a cup of coffee. You're ready to drink now. Show up to the tailgate party at like 10 o'clock, 10:15. Start drinking it till around 10 and quarter to noon. You walk into Bears game or just get ready for the red zone with all your friends in the garage, and then it's noon to 3, and then 3 to 6, and then at 7:30 is the night game. So 7:30 till about 10:15. You could do that all day long, and by then you're more than stiff. You're locked at that point in time. So it's time to go to bed, and you could get a good night's sleep from 11 o'clock at night until 6 in the morning and go to work. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that is pretty ideal because it's definitely like weird. Yeah, in the during the season, there's like a long day of anticipation for me, because I get up and I'm up from 7 or half 6 in the morning, and then you're waiting. Like, okay, 3 hours to kick off. Okay, 2.5 hours to kick off, and then you get to 6 o'clock, and it's like, right, everyone leave me alone. It's football time.
Right. Oh, cool. All right, I got some commissioner questions for you.
Yeah.
When did you start playing fantasy football? You more of a, well, we already talked about more of a redraft or dynasty guy here, but what was your first league and how long ago was it?
Um, so I got into, like, it's really weird. My backstory, just I actually started playing so fantasy in general, fantasy sports. I got into Premier League, so fantasy Premier League. So soccer, as you guys would call it. This probably 9, 10 years ago. And it was from some guys on work, just like, hey, talking about it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And the way they do that, so there's an official app over here where you download the app, and then everybody basically has a certain like a budget, like £100 million that. And you have like 15 players you have to pick, and they're all certain prices. So then you have to try and mix and match and figure out the best players. And then, so it's kind of like weird because like we could both be playing, me and you could both be playing. We'd have the same exact pool of players to pick from. It just depends on like if you thought this person was a better striker and I thought this person, and you pick those players. And so I started that, and it kind of got me hooked. It's sort of like I started that, played that for a year, then played it the next year, and then I was like, this isn't as much fun. So then I dug around and found some unique draft sort of basically fantasy Premier League stuff. So it's kind of what we do now in the NFL, but it was for Premier League. So we would get a group of guys together, 10 or 12 guys, and we would sit and draft the players. So we'd be like, we'd do rounds of drafting, and you'd pick players, and then you could trade players and things like that. I did that for a couple of years, really loved that. And then it was just literally a chatting with a friend of mine where it kind of just struck me. I was like, because he was like, oh, do you ever do like fantasy NFL? And I was like, no, I haven't actually. I was like, I don't really know. I think it's just because over here, like obviously it's not as big as it is in the States. And so I was sort of like, maybe it'd be harder to find people to play with, or that would be into it and things like that. And so it was just and I just decided, fair enough. And so I did it just with a couple of guys that I knew. And then we did it was like 3 or 4 of us. And then we just went on to, I think it was NFL.com back then. And we just used the NFL fantasy site, and we just like did a random league or something, with like another 6 or 8 random people that we didn't know, and just did a redraft league. I think I did 2 redraft leagues the first year I played, and I just loved it. I really, really loved it. And then I was really like, yes, yeah, exactly. It was a gateway. It was definitely the gateway, and it was just, I remember it was actually, and so that first season, because it was weird because I knew about NFL, obviously grew up with NFL. I've been supporting the Vikings since I was probably 8 or 9 years old. But you know what it's like when you're not playing fantasy, or you're not involved in it, you're not as clued in, other than like maybe your team, you're more aware of your team and what's happening with your team. But a lot of other teams, you're like, I don't know, man, I know Tom Brady, I know some of these guys. And then so as I was looking into it, it was like I was digging around and trying to find resources and stuff, and reading things and like trying to learn and stuff like that. And that's where I found the Fantasy Footballers. And that's where I got introduced to like fantasy, like podcasts and stuff like that, and then I think it was Fantasy Pros was another one at the time, and things like that. So I found a couple of fantasy podcasts. And then I remember once the season was over being really bummed, because I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? For like, what am I going to do for 8 months while this happens? But yeah, like I said, it was, and then that next year, I think I did a couple more redraft again. And then I was just like, I need more, I need to try something different. And I just was like, I'd heard about Dynasty, and I was like, I didn't know anybody that did Dynasty though at all. And so I was just like, I need to try this. So I just sort of just kind of made my own way, really, to be honest with you, because it was just more me wanting to experience it and try it, more than, it wasn't like I knew a load of people that were doing it. So I just really kind of kept pushing and pushing to try new things. And then, like I said, once I started Dynasty, and never looked back, and just really loved it.
Yeah, I get into fantasy hockey leagues when I get a chance to around here. Just one though. I only do one because like you said, I really only know Blackhawks players from around here. But when I was in dynasty leagues or redraft NHL leagues, it gave me an opportunity to say, oh, I got someone playing on the Jets tonight, Winnipeg Jets or the Boston Bruins. So it gave me something to walk to my neighbor's house, have a couple beers, watch that game for a reason, try and score some fantasy points. But I wasn't serious about it. I really didn't care. It was more of just having a good time, drinking some beers, and kind of having something to do. So that kind of took the edge off from going from 19 fantasy football leagues to one hockey league I really didn't give a shit about. It was like a nice buffer just to set a lineup every day and kind of, all right, I'm talking myself off the edge now. I'm not going to go into I'm not going to, this is my little bit of escape from like getting killed and not having fantasy anymore. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So I'm going to ask you your opinion on some settings, and you tell me if you like them or not, and feel free to say love it, hate it, or, elaborate if you'd like. Do you like a tight end premium, like 0.75-ish?
Yeah, the more tight end premium, the better, in my opinion.
Everybody says they don't, it doesn't matter. They all get the same scoring and stuff, but it makes them so much better as a slotted
flex
place.
option.
Yeah, a flag.
Yeah.
I started Gesicki and to Hawkinson almost all last year when I had a chance in a .75 premium league, and it worked out pretty nice.
Yeah. There's one league I play in a lot of different types of leagues, and there's one league that we decided to do like a full point, maybe even a point and a half, like tight end premium. So it's like ridiculous scoring for tight ends. And that's one thing I always tell people when they're doing a startup is check the settings and make sure they understand
Yeah.
what the implications are. Because I knew that. I drafted like Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, and somebody else like all in the top like 8 rounds or something. And so and then I drafted Kyle Pitts last year in our rookie draft. And like honestly, I only have like Austin Eckler's my only like halfway decent running back in that league, but yet I made it to the semifinals because I was like rolling out like three tight ends every week. I was playing like Darren Waller, before he got injured, Mark Andrews. I've got like Kyle Pitts, obviously, somebody else as well, Logan Thomas. So yeah, absolutely. No, I love tight end premium. I think it gives a boost to the position because it's an important position in the NFL and it can be overlooked in just normal PPR or half PPR leagues.
Yeah, last year a guy that was starting Pitts, Kelsey, and Andrews in a PPR tight end premium .75, and it was I think it was a .1, so you get 2 points for every reception plus all the yardage and touchdown. I mean,
Yeah,
that was his 2 flex spots and his tight end spot were all 3 of those, and it killed
exactly. Yeah,
it.
exactly. More than one way to skin a cat.
I love that saying. That's exactly. I say it all the time. What about point per or .01 or .10 or 1 full point per carry? How do you like that setting?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't have any strong feelings about it either way. Like I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's fine. If people want it, I'm cool with it. Like I understand it gives a little bit of value to the sort of bell cow running backs and stuff like that. But I don't like it's not like I must have this setting.
Well, it gives such a for the Nick Chubbs and the guys who don't, who care
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you're looking at guys who don't really catch the ball in the backfield, Derrick Henry, stuff like that. To get a
Yeah.
point per carry, they're going to get 20, 25 carries a game. That's, if it's a full point, you're looking at, I mean, I don't know if nobody does a full point, but like a
Yeah, no, I think
point
people do
one.
like 0.1 or 0.2 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it still is a couple of points for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like having 3 or 4 receptions if you set the settings right. Yes. Point for first down.
Same way for me. Like it's definitely one of those ones where you have to be a lot more nuanced to take advantage of that. You have
Yeah.
to really sort of study like who's the possession receivers and like who's getting those third down, looks and things like that, to really sort of majorly take advantage of that setting. So again, for me, it's fine. Like I have no problem with it, but I'm not like, oh, we need this setting in every league.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. You just draft all the slot receivers and call it a day.
Yes. Give me all
Uh,
the Renfro.
Kickoff, punt return, and touchdown yards, like that kind of stuff to get.
Yeah, no, I actually really am. I'm a big advocate of that actually, because I think, especially one of the things I've been talking about in my series that I'm doing at the moment, the kind of building the big board series, talking about rookies and the incoming rookies for the real life NFL. And I think the reason people play Dynasty, well, at least most of it, is that we really love the process of the NFL. We love the incoming rookies and the way of building teams and trades and all that. And so if you want to emulate that and you want to get that experience, I think you need to incorporate return yardage and things like that, because it's such an important part of the game, especially for these guys that are, 4th, 5th, 6th round picks and stuff. One of the key ways that they can stick on a roster is to contribute in special teams. So, punt return, kick returns, those are really important to the NFL team. So I think it's a really nice thing to add because, again, especially if you're in deeper leagues, 14, 16 team leagues, it just makes a lot more players kind of relevant. There was a couple of 16 team crazy, like full IDP leagues that I was in where like we have 50-man rosters and like start 20 players every week and stuff like that. And, you're literally starting players that are 4th wide receivers, but they do return yardage or something like that, and as one of your like 4th flex or something. So it depends on how big of a degenerate you are. But yeah, no, I think it's good. I like it. I'm a proponent of it. Oh, you're on mute there. I can't hear you.
Braxton Berrios pretty much got me a playoff win last year by his return yards and his return touchdown
Yeah.
in the game. It was I swear to God, if you don't have a bye in the first round of playoffs, no matter how good your team is, you're gonna lose in the first round of playoffs. You could have the best team, but just not get the bye in the playoffs, and you're going to lose that week. Like you need that bye to get you through, and then you skate through the rest of the playoffs. So It just I didn't I ever I had a really shitty team. And I was playing the best team in the league who didn't have a bye, and I smoked them because I had Braxton Berrios, Zay Jones, and a couple other guys who got some return yards, and it worked out absolutely awesome for me. So I got lucky. I got second place in the league because of return yards for a couple weeks, and it's just the right players hit at the right time. That's all that matters.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
what should a passing touchdown be worth? 4, 5, 6 points?
I like 6 point. Because I feel like it helps those guys who aren't your traditional sort of like the Konami code quarterbacks. It helps them get a little bit more worth because, like not necessarily last year, but like somebody like Matt Ryan of previous years for the Falcons, he was never going to run and get you rushing touchdowns or just rushing yardage, but because he was able to put up decent touchdowns as well as decent yardage, then he was still a viable option. So I like 6 point. Again, I'm not a zealot about it. Like I'm not going to shame people for wanting to play 4 point, but I prefer 6 point myself.
A zealot. That's great. No, I like the quarterback position. I think it's unfair when you get quarterbacks who really can't play the position, but get so many points by just running around. I mean, I'm in a league where quarterback rushing points, they only get 0.01 for a rushing yard. The passing yards are really, that's if you get for every 25 yards you get 1 point passing, but you don't get any kind of credit for like a quarterback rushing the ball. So quarterbacks like the Joe Burrows, the Tom Brady, stuff like that, who don't have any rushing yards but tons of passing, they're like almost invaluable in those kind of leagues.
Yeah, true.
So I mean, it's kind of like real NFL style where you can have you guys get first downs and they run and all, but they're not the future of the franchise by having their legs. I know like Lamar Jackson, stuff like that, he's winning some games now, but you see when he's starting to get nicked up a little bit, and you can see kind of the end game if he's going to keep not sliding or avoiding contact. Russell Wilson and there's a handful of quarterbacks like that who know how to not take hits.
Yeah.
They'll know how to slide, how to avoid contact, and those guys can throw the ball very well. They can run a little bit, but they also avoid hits, and they're the players that are going to last longer in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely personally, I mean, I love Konami code quarterbacks. I think they are the future of the NFL quarterback position, just because it does create such a mismatch for the defense when they're trying to account for you as a rusher because they can't, drop too many people in coverage and things like that. So I think somebody like a Josh Allen obviously is your kind of poster boy for that, where certainly can rush, has the body for it. He's pretty smart with it. He's getting smarter with it. He's not necessarily taking all the hits that he doesn't have to take. I'd like to see him get a little bit better at that even, but he certainly can. He has a cannon for an arm and can throw it really well and stuff as well. I like it myself. But yeah, I think there are people who maybe like your Hurts, who is a questionable passer at this point in time, but really athletic. And so therefore he's a kind of a cheat code for fantasy. And I understand how that can be frustrating for some, purist fantasy managers.
Yeah, I think it's that there are literally people in some leagues I'm in that don't even watch football. Like they don't enjoy football. They don't watch football. They don't even know what colors the team. Like if I asked them what color the Chicago Bears were, they probably couldn't even tell me. But they could do their spreadsheets. They do all their stuff. They know every stat about every human being that plays in the NFL. But they can't even. I enjoy the game of football. I played it since I was in third grade or fourth grade. I've watched it. I've coached for my kids. I've watched my kids play. I still watch it now. It's part of my. I mean, it's been my life for my entire life. And
Yeah.
I guess people say, "Oh, it's because you're a purist." No, it's because I know how the game is played. I don't. It's not. The whole field is getting taken away from one guy running all over the place. And like the Cam Newton, he'll run for touchdowns. Everybody on the team suffers, but he's the first one to look at me, Superman. And then every time he does anything bad, he's on the bench with a towel over his head, pouting, and they're not winning games and stuff. But you need someone to pick the team up, who be to be a football player, to be a leader, not just someone to get their own stats and the rest of the team can go pound sand kind of shit. Like that's I guess that's how football is where I came from anyway.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, like you said, it's different people play for different reasons and things like that.
I'm a purist.
Yeah, you are.
What is bonuses for 100 and 200 yard rushing and receiving? You good with that, or you just kind of if guy gets 100 yards or 200 yards, it doesn't matter to you?
Again, I'm fine with it. Like, I think it makes sense because I like sort of rewarding people for contributing, to the game. So obviously if they have a 100 or 200-yard game, they've had a massive impact on that game. So I'm down with giving them a bonus. I don't like, again, I'm not like, no, we must have this bonus in our league or something. Like, I'm pretty easy with that kind of stuff. Like, I really prefer PPR. I prefer Superflex. I prefer tight end premium. But other than that, I'm like pretty easy about like if people want to do like 100-yard bonuses or, like the big play bonuses, like if it's 50 yards or more,
Yes.
they get an extra point or something. I'm like, yeah, it's fine if that's what you want to do. Because ultimately it's fair for everybody. I mean, everybody gets that same, as long as it's clear and it's fair. It's different if like people wait till like 2/3 of the way through a startup to start messing with the scoring settings or something like that, because you're like, hold on, I've been drafting this whole way because I was understanding it wasn't a tight end premium or, whatever. So as long as it's fair and clearly communicated, I quite like trying lots of different types of leagues, really. Like, I'm in a couple of like, I'm in one or two tight end leagues, which are crazy.
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of super flex. I'm in some 1 QB. I'm in some IDP. So, yeah, I'm in one or two dynasty best ball leagues. So yeah, I just like to try different formats because, again, even, for something that I love to, talk fantasy football and hopefully give advice and hopefully help people with it. And so for me, I think experience is the best teacher. So I tend to try different things, and just see, so I can try and speak from a place of experience. With Superflex, I like to do this, or with a 1 QB, I do this, or with a, running back points per carry, this is what I prefer, so I try a couple of different things. But yeah, I mean, for me, the whole point bonus for 100+ yard games or whatever, it's fine. I'm not like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing that's ever happened, but I don't mind it.
If you got 6 points for a 100-yard bonus and 12 points for a 200-yard game, would that be too much?
That'd be too much, I think. Yeah.
How many 200-yard games are there a season rushing?
What is it?
How many 200-yard games are there in every season rushing?
Not a
Three,
lot.
3, 4. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you get why wouldn't you give somebody a bonus that for 12 points for 200 yards if they achieve that one
Well,
game?
because I feel like they're already going to have a great scoring day for hitting 200 yards. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're already going to get, realistically, if you got 200 yards, you're probably going to have got at least one touchdown, in my assumption. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't happen sometimes, but
Right.
200-yard rushing game, you're probably going to have got 1 or 2 touchdowns as well. I mean, you're already going to be getting like a ridiculous boatload of points. To give an extra 12 points just because you did that feels like a bit of an insult, to like the poor guy on the other side who's playing Naeem Hines or something.
There's no mercy in this dojo.
I know. Yeah. No, I mean, I again, to me, I'm okay with certain things like that if they enhance the game and make it more fun and everything like that. To me, stuff like that can get too carried away though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a couple IDP leagues that played in, where people were doing like 12 points per sack or something crazy, and you're like,
That's
okay,
crazy.
but then, when you're one of your defensive ends does have that 3 sack game that they're getting like 80 points or something, like, it's crazy, it's crazy. Like, it's just too much, so yeah, I think it's, as long as it's fair and it's fun and it makes it a better experience. But again, yeah, if there's 12 people in your league and they all want to do a 12-point bonus for 200-yard rushing games, then knock yourself out, go for it.
Yeah, the guy with Derrick Henry loved it this year. So
Yeah,
this year, so
I'm
yeah.
sure.
What about passing? Like, if you got 4 points for a 300-yard game, 6 points for 400, 8 points for 500, and 10 points for a 600-yard passing game, which possibly could happen. Like, if those were the rules, would you be okay with that, or is that a league you'd leave from?
It seems excessive again to me. Like, I sort of think of those bonuses as just like, I would want them to be like just a nice little like icing on the cake.
Mm.
Because to me, what it's like. You play in a game, you play in a league, and you'd be amazed how many times in a year the games come down to like 1 or 2 point difference, don't they?
Yeah,
So if you're gonna give the guy who had the quarterback that got 400 yards an extra 2 points, and then that's what gets him the win, I feel like that's fair, that's nice. But again, if they're like getting 12 points because their quarterback got 400 yards or something, I just think, I don't know, because in the real NFL, like, you don't, it's not like he's going to win a game just because he got 400 yards passing. I mean, it's going to help his team and help his chances, but it doesn't help him. He doesn't actually win the game because he got 400 yards passing versus, somebody got 20 yards passing, but they, just ran the ball crazy down people's throats all the time. Like, what was his name? Mac Jones.
yeah. 2, 3 attempts for 12 yards or
Yeah,
something like that.
that was insane. I remember that was like a Monday night game, wasn't it?
It
Because
was
I
there was
remember, like,
there was like 60-mile-an-hour winds, so even if you threw
yeah.
the ball, you could, like,
So I
it
woke
wouldn't go
up the
anywhere.
next morning and I was like looking, because that's like the first thing I do is like wake up, check the scores, and I was like, I mustn't be awake yet. This can't be right. Three pass attempts. This is 1943, or like what's happening?
It's even Josh Allen with his, howitzer arm, his
Yeah.
cannon of an arm, only threw like 7 passes that game or something like that. And one of them was he was on the right side of the field and he threw it completely straight, like tried to get to the left, and it was like one of his few completions that game. But it was absolutely amazing. The storm came across the Midwest and then moved to the East Coast, so we know it was coming. We're like, how the hell are they going to play in those conditions? And Cleveland had a couple games like that last year too. That's why Baker
Yeah.
Mayfield's stats were so bad some of the games, because he couldn't throw the ball for like 3 straight weeks. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. But what's your favorite fantasy football site? Are you a MFL guy? ESPN, Yahoo, Flea Flicker, CBS? Like, what do you play on?
Sleeper.
Yes,
100%.
everybody
I
says MFL,
honestly, I cannot stand MFL. Like, no offense. I hope
right?
MFL is not listening. Big MFL. Hope Big MFL is not listening in on this conversation, but I really can't stand MFL. I mean, there's honestly been leagues that I've turned down like, joining just because they're on MFL. Like, I just hate the way it is. It feels like it's a 1980s like
Yeah.
Apple like program or something that's just outdated, never been updated. I really like Sleeper, and I feel like it's just gotten better and better every year.
Yep.
Like, it's just I love it. I love the functionality. I like all the updates. I like the ease of use. I mean, 95% of the time for me, I'm doing that kind of stuff on my phone. So I love their app and how easy it is to use. I'm not a big like desktop. I mean, I do some stuff because a lot of like my research and recording and things like that's on my computer. So I'll have a Sleeper tab open and be messing around on it sometimes when I'm at the computer. But as far as like even like drafting, like honestly, when I'm in a startup, like 95% of the time I'm just drafting on my phone and stuff. So I just like the functionality on the app and the ability to like
Yep.
filter and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. MFL is fantastic for a commissioner. The options you have to form a league are endless on MFL. It's fantastic for that, but after that, it's absolutely. I mean, it's almost kind of useless as far as I'm concerned, because I'm also I'm a construction. I'm a cell phone person, and I need the usability of Sleeper on my cell phone. It's just so easy, and I've
Yeah.
pretty much gotten. I mean, literally 2 years ago, I was on like the Fishbowl and a couple other leagues from MFL. I was in a couple leagues on ESPN, some on Yahoo, a couple on Free Flicker, like 2 on CBS, and then all the rest of them were on Sleeper. And it was so hard, like going from site to site to site,
Yeah.
like signing in, and you lose connection sometimes, and it's like,
Yep.
fuck, son of a bitch, I'm setting 19 lineups on 15 different things, and it
Yeah.
takes me. It was terrible. So where a
No,
laptop would be
exactly.
would be awesome for that kind of stuff. But I've streamlined all of my leagues to Sleeper now, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
And even Scott Fish said he's going to do this fishbowl on half sleeper, half MFL this year. So it's
Oh, that's
obviously,
awesome.
yeah, it's obviously making its impact on the fantasy community. If MFL was streamline their site and have a good app like Sleeper does, there would be no such thing as Sleeper. So it's their own fault, you know.
How dare you?
I'm just saying, it's because MFL has everything that a commissioner would want and a
Yeah.
player would want, but the functionality is absolutely terrible. It's good on a laptop, it's good on a desktop, but it's terrible on a cell phone. And then people are like, "Oh, you just go to your Safari," and it's not the same, you know.
No.
All right, last question here. What do you do to prepare yourself every season to make you a better and more informed fantasy football player?
Oh man. Phew, that's a loaded question. Well, I think it's different, obviously, for me now that I'm like, like as a content creator, it's totally different than if you're just a consumer. Because if you're a content creator, you're constantly sort of looking at things and researching things, and so I do a lot. I mean, I listen to quite a lot of podcasts, and I listen to like non-fantasy podcasts as well. Like I listen to, Move the Sticks, around the NFL,
Daniel Jeremiah.
yeah, exactly. A lot of stuff where, it's not fantasy related. It's just pure actual NFL related, because I love the game of football. So I'm not probably like you. I didn't play it in school and things like that. I didn't have that background, but I love learning about the football game. I
Mhm.
love I'll watch YouTube videos about like blocking schemes, and I'm really stupid and geeky like that. Where I'll study things like that, and I find like people talking about offensive lines, and their
Uh,
grading of them. Like I find that fascinating, and I'll listen to that. And I love learning about the game. And I love fantasy football, obviously, and that's why I talk fantasy football and do a lot of stuff about Dynasty and everything. But honestly, like I love the game of football. I love the fact that, it is like I'm sure the analogy has been used many times, but it is like a real life game of chess, and I find that fascinating. I love the game of chess, like
Yeah.
I think that's a really just I love strategy. I love the nuances of it. I think what's fascinating about football is like you can watch it you can watch it as someone with almost no knowledge of what's going on and still be entertained by it.
Yep.
But the more you learn about it, the more you're like, holy cow, there's so many layers to it, like that substitution, what was that all about? Or that shift, what's that all about? Or, like, oh, what's that, play call, or what kind of coverage is, and it's just, there's so many layers to it. So I think I find all that kind of stuff fascinating. And so I just go down the rabbit hole. Depends on the time of year. Like this time of year, obviously it's all about incoming rookies and prospects. And, there's quite a few podcasts I listen to that, are talking about a lot of the rookies and prospects from like, just an NFL scouting perspective and what they're thinking about players and what they like or don't like. And, there's a lot of hype about, the draft and who's going to go where. And I find all that kind of stuff fascinating. So then up until then, and then after that, after the draft and after we actually know landing spots and things, then it's like you start going through the process of, for me, last couple of years, you're looking at your projections. So then you're going through the teams and you're looking at like, okay, projecting out quarterbacks and running backs. And that's kind of informing your opinion of like who's going to be playing where and what's that depth chart and what's this like and all that. And then, yeah, it's just like, it's endless, it's crazy because when you're not creating content, I think you're sort of like, it's such a long off season.
Yeah.
And I feel that as well. But at the same time, like I'm freaking out that the draft is only like 3 weeks away. Cause I'm like, I still have so many more rookies to get through and I have so many things to do. And like, oh my gosh, the draft's almost here, and like, whereas if I wasn't, I think I would just be like, oh, I can't believe the draft's still 3 weeks away. This sucks, will it hurry up and get here? So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff like that. I try to listen to a lot of podcasts. I try to follow people on Twitter that I think are smart or that I think have interesting things to say. I try to listen more than I speak, other than when I'm on a podcast. I try to read. I just bought this. I don't know if you can see that.
1 knee equals 2 feet. Yeah. Okay. John Madden.
Yeah, John Madden wrote it. So yeah, I even like reading. I just real, just reading actual like books, like real books and stuff about football and just learning about football. I just find it fascinating. I love talking or understanding the salary cap. I love talking trades. I love understanding free agency. I love the draft. Just all the elements of it I find fascinating.
Yeah, as a person who played left tackle pretty much from 4th grade all the way through college, I thought I was pretty well versed in like the game of football itself, offense, defensive schemes, alignments, switches, any kind of defensive sets, anything that I had to block or blocking schemes themselves. And I got in a film chat with like Damian Parsons and Christian Williams and a handful of other guys that are on here, that Alfredo Brown, and those guys that watch film. And I mean, I can add you to this film. Coach Bruce is the one that started it up. All these guys who coached and are like NFL scouts or college scouts and stuff like that, or are really good film guys. They put films on there all the time. They break them down, and I'm like, that's BS. He was holding, or that's this and that. And they're like, no, that's called a shiver, or this is so and so. Things are like three steps above my pay grade. They're talking about like it's the norm for film chat stuff, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't. It's so it throws you through a loop, and you think you know the game of football as
Yeah.
much as I know. I know I could tell you every position, what's going on. I could tell you pretty much halftime what the play is going to be, and it's these guys are 15 steps ahead of me on film review. So it's a great place to learn. It's terrible that I thought I knew so much. Like you said before, and this place, I just sit and listen, and I don't even talk here because I'm that person who has so much to learn in this group chat. So that's how good these guys are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But all right, we're getting out of time here, so let me run
Yeah.
through some free
Sorry.
agency and stuff. No, I have all day, so you don't have to worry about me. I feel bad for you. I keep, like I said, somebody's go 45 minutes, some go 4 hours. We're gonna try and keep this one about an hour and 20 minutes. So we'll go
Okay.
team by team real fast. The Bears, Byron Pringle. That's an acronym of St. Brown. Those don't really move the needle for me. Bengals, Brandon Allen re-signed him. Hayden Hurst, CJ Uzomah replacement. The Bills had Matt Barkley, Case Keenum. Feel free to chime in if any of these guys pique an interest of you at all whatsoever. So Jameson Crowder to Bills, Duke Johnson, Jake Kumaro, Wisconsin Whitewater kid, where my son goes to college right now. and Isaiah McKenzie. What do you think about the Isaiah McKenzie? Because I was really kind of happy about that, and now Jamison Crowder's in there with, the Gabe Davis. What do you think is going to happen with that receiving core now?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Jamison Crowder is a really good slot receiver. So I think he just comes right in and takes over that Beasley role, So I think he'll have value, especially in PPR leagues. I mean, honestly, I never was a Gabe Davis truther. So I don't have any major feelings about any. I don't feel like he's really changed much for me because I always sort of just saw him as like a fine boom bust sort of wide receiver 3-ish kind of character. I don't know. I think a lot of people were really excited about him and wanted him to be like maybe a top end wide receiver 2 or something, but I don't know. Like, I don't really see that. I just saw like he didn't really statistically, he didn't really improve from his rookie year to his sophomore year. He kind of had pretty much the exact same stat line. He had an amazingly massive game on a big stage. And I think there was a lot of recency bias there and things like that. And he's obviously a red zone target, which is good. But I mean, for me, I'm not majorly moving Gabe Davis down my ranks because I didn't really have him that high above my ranks anyway. So I'm pretty much the same with Gabe Davis. Stephon Diggs doesn't really change for me. I think it's just good for the Bills as an NFL team. And I think that he will have value. I think that he'll definitely be somebody that if you can acquire cheaply is worth it, especially as like if you're a contender and if you got like a bigger team and things like that and you need like an extra body to fill in or like an extra flex spot to fill. I could definitely see him, because I think he is a good solid slot wide receiver. I just think that is his game. He's not a field stretcher. He's not like an X receiver. He is just a slot receiver, but he's good at what he does. And Josh Allen is one of the premier, quarterbacks in the league now. So I think he'll be able to maximize what Jameson Williams does well. So, or not Jameson Williams, but Jamison Crowder, thinking rookies here. So I think he'll be able to maximize Jamison Crowder really well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good signing, really good fit. And I actually have Crowder in a couple leagues, so I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with the boost in value there.
What do you think about McKenzie? What's he going to do? Is he just relegated to the bench now?
Yeah, I don't think he's really going to do much, to be honest with you. I mean, I think he's just one of those guys that, see, it's like, here's the thing. Like, I love Dynasty. I absolutely love it. But I think a lot of like people who are really into Dynasty get a bit too like, trying to think of nice ways to say this. So they
get starstruck over their favorite guys who,
or they hype up players that are never going to be anything just because they want something to talk about, or they want like a player to like, be excited for. And like, I just don't get that. I'm not really like that. I'm like, look, don't get me wrong. There's going to be sleepers and there's going to be guys that come up and they have more value as time goes on and everything like that. But like majorly prioritizing somebody like Mac Hollins or something, I just don't get that. Like that's not, I don't think that's really going to help you win your league necessarily. Like, absolutely. If Isaiah McKenzie's sitting on the waivers for free, you can throw him, stash him on the bench, see what happens. But I'm not personally overly excited about his future. I think that if they were really excited about him and his development, then they wouldn't have gone out and got Crowder, and they wouldn't be, making these moves and things like that if they were really excited about what they had,
Yeah, no, I thought they were going to go after other positions, maybe spruce up anything on the defense they needed before, or maybe get a running back in there. So I didn't think they would really go after a third receiver or even a fourth receiver or even OJ Howard for that matter. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen with this offense. So where I saw them at was done rebuilding the receiving core, and I was kind of like, yes, they got Isaiah McKenzie. He's gonna have a chance to, because the best ability is availability, and if he's on the field and available for all your targets, that's it would be an outstanding situation. But unfortunately, it didn't pan out, and now I think you're right. He'll be a bench stash kind of guy, and hopefully, and just in case of an injury or something like that, it's the only time he's going to be relevant now. But who's starting at tight end, OJ Howard or Dawson Knox?
I think Josh Allen really likes Dawson Knox. I think that they have a good rapport there, especially in the red zone and stuff. But again, they've obviously brought Howard in for a reason. I think ideally they want to see what they've got in him, and they want to see him show his abilities and things like that on the field. He's a really athletic guy, so it wouldn't surprise me either way. Knox is one of those guys that I like, but I never got carried away with. I never put him up in like, a top 6 tight end area or anything like that. So I'm not really knocking him down too far. I think he was sort of, 12, 13 range for me, tight end 12, 13, somewhere in there, sort of very low end tight end 1, high end tight end 2 sort of range. Just because a lot of his value is boosted by touchdowns. He had a low target share, things like that. So for me with tight ends, I really like to see the target share. I like to see them being a really important part of the offense. That's something that I would really target more so if I'm looking at, when I'm looking at my tight ends. So yeah, for me, it doesn't really change much other than like it gives a bit of a boost of value because I was pretty much out on Howard, because of his recent last couple of years. But it obviously makes me a little bit more intrigued with him just being tied to such a good offense where they do, other than, because if you think about it, other than Stephon Diggs, they need some solid contributors to step up and really regularly be contributing. Now that Beasley's gone, he was getting like 100 targets a season. So,
Right.
They need some people to step up and actually be contributors. So there is a hole there to be filled. So it'll be interesting to see what Howard has to do. He's one of those guys though. I feel like at this moment in time, whoever has him probably was already a truther. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now they're going to be like, oh, yes, the sky's the limit. I want 3 firsts. I just don't think I think he's nothing but a hold right now because if you've already got him, you were probably a truther. So you're not going to want to sell him. And then, realistically, I'm not a truther. I would be intrigued by him, but again, I wouldn't want to be paying like a first round pick for him or even like a second round pick, probably,
Right.
So it's one of those just hold and wait and see. If you can sell high on him, then I'd be fine with that. But he's probably just a hold for me.
Yeah. All right. He was my version of Kyle Pitts back in the day when Howard, I loved him coming out of college. So his injuries and, it just didn't work out for him, but it is what it is. He's only 27, so we'll see what happens.
And that's the nice thing about tight ends. Like you say, it takes him a few years anyways, a lot of times. So it's not like he's dust and he's done and there's no chance. It's a little bit more of a longer shot.
Right. Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Are they a Super Bowl contender now?
Man, I would say so. Yes. I would say so. Like, man, I really think it's pretty wild to me, like the Russell Wilson disrespect in the streets. Like, I find it crazy. Like, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like he got injured last year and that threw off his game for a chunk of the year, but he never got injured before that. He was like the Iron Man. And like
he's like 50-50 the last couple of years. He has a good part of the season where Russ cooks, and there's a part where Russ is the flames put out, and Russ is just simmering. He's not cooking anymore. It's like Richard Sherman said it. That if you rely on Russell Wilson to win games for you, you're not going to win games. It's
I don't know, man. Like I think that the style of play that they had in Seattle just didn't work for the last couple of years. They were trying to really rely on their run game. And then ideally, I think they wanted to rely on their run game and have a really good defense, but they didn't have a really good defense. And their run game was like getting banged up and injured a lot. So then, and their offensive line was garbage. So I think there's a lot of nuance to it. I think absolutely Russell Wilson can hold on to the ball too long and create sacks for himself and create his own problems at times. But he has obviously he had a great receiving core in Seattle, but he obviously has a great receiving core now in Denver. He's got a much better offensive line, better run game, and the defense is actually really good. So I think I think they're contenders. I'm not saying they're favorites by any means because that AFC West is insane. Like it's just like absolute arms race, it's like an absolute, like, it's like my favorite division now just for fantasy purposes. It's so exciting, because I love Herbert and Chargers and they've done some amazing moves. And then obviously the Chiefs are incredible from a fantasy perspective. And now even the Raiders are pretty exciting. So it's going to be great. Every week it's going to be like fireworks.
Russell Wilson is a little bit polarizing, but the Browns acquired Deshaun Watson, and he is not polarizing. He is a fantastic quarterback, rushing, throwing, accuracy, everything about him. Unfortunately, the team around the Browns is not even close to as good as the Broncos are. So it's going to be. I think this is a good move for a team that was a little bit more. The Browns are good. They have a good, good defense, good running game, good offensive line, good all that stuff. But is now the right time to bring in Deshaun Watson for the Browns? Could he have gone
I don't know,
better?
man. Like I find it really hard, honestly, to talk about Watson because I know everyone's different, but for me personally, I can't really kind of differentiate the off-field stuff from what's happening on the field as much. It's harder for me. As far as from a purely physical, like football perspective, I understand why they did it. I have real disappointment in what they did and in the morals behind it. Even to me, the fact of the contract situation where they've purposefully manipulated the money so that if he does get suspended, which seems likely, it won't really hurt him, it won't really hit his pocketbook very much. I find that very disappointing, and I don't see how any, it's just disappointing because I even like tweeted something about it the other week or the other day because I try not to talk too much about it because there's a lot of people who have a lot of different opinions, and ultimately it's a complex situation. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of it on Twitter for sure, but it was something else as well where it's just like I worry that, and I think it's just major sports in general. I feel like we lose our humanity in the midst of just pursuing the next W,
Yep.
And so yeah, for me, that's where I'm at with it. I mean, I understand absolutely, you're right from a purely like talent
on the
perspective.
field perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the field, he's a top 5 quarterback. So selling the farm to go get a top 5 quarterback who's still in his prime of his career makes sense. But like you said, I mean, there's a good chance he could potentially miss all of 22.
Mhm.
And then you're sort of like, you've given away your next 3 firsts plus a couple seconds. You've given him like the craziest, biggest contract of all time. I mean, what do you,
You don't have any receivers. Nick Chubb will be a year older. You're probably going to lose Kareem Hunt.
Exactly. Yeah,
no.
exactly. It's like, how are you going to, it'll be interesting to see how they navigate the financials of it because they brought in Amari Cooper, and I think Amari Cooper is a very good receiver. I think he's underrated for what he is, but they need more. They can't just be like, okay, we got Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson, we're good to go. They still need, I think, another receiver or two. They need to try and keep both running backs if they can, keep their offensive line going. They need their defense to be solid. I mean, they've got a lot to figure out. I get it. Like I said, from a purely physical, just football perspective, I understand. I think it's really fascinating the way the NFL has just like decided that, this no price is too great to pay for a good quarterback, and everyone's just like throwing multiple firsts and players and everything. I think it's fun. Like, it's pretty cool, but it'll definitely be interesting to see how it actually plays out.
I've plenty of analysts who this stuff used to drive me nuts a couple years ago with all the the antics and people's rights and stands and everything else like that. But I've listened to a lot of analysts, and the way they've made this be is that they said, hey, there's nobody on this football field is an angel. Nobody on this football field is there's plenty of bad people behind those numbers on your favorite team that you don't know about or you don't want to know about or you might have found out. It's you're playing this game. You just have to separate yourself from the player and just kind of root for the your fantasy football team or your fantasy numbers or your stuff like that. I'm not trying to be friends with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's not looking me up on Twitter and trying to be my buddy either. Like, I don't really care. He doesn't care about me. I don't care about him. I'm playing a game that I like to play, and it doesn't involve me having a personal relationship with anybody on the football field. So it's
I think it's exactly. Well, I the way I see it is that it's a complex issue, and different people are going to react to it differently, and they're going to process it differently. And I think it's tricky because for me personally, like, I guess I can only speak for me as a person. I'm a passionate person. So when I speak about things, tend to be passionate about my stances,
sure.
but then you don't want to write off or disrespect or kind of like say that other people's views are not valid because they don't share your concerns or your perceptions of it. Because for me, like you said, I 100% agree that there's people on every team who probably have a DUI or they probably got involved in some sort of altercation or something's happened, they're not angels. That I understand. And I'm totally comfortable with that. And I appreciate that. I guess for me, it's like, I think there's a bit of a difference between did they do one wrong thing at one's time versus like, is there 22 like civil lawsuits outstanding against this person? For me, that's a bit of a difference. And I think as well, just the idea of like, rightfully or wrongfully, we, young people especially, they look up to sports stars as heroes and as people they want to emulate. And I feel like the message that's being kind of put out with this whole Deshaun Watson thing is like, hey, if you're talented, don't worry about it. Like, we'll sort it out. If you're good at what you do, don't worry about the rest of that stuff. We'll fix it. And it's like, I don't feel like that's a good message to be sending to young people or to send to people in general. I think, I did say, and I mean it, like, and I respect, like, I know Mark Sessler from around the NFL is a Browns fan, and he kind of came out and said, I'm not a Browns fan anymore. Like, I'm done for now with the Browns. And, I respect that and I appreciate that because I actually did say, I mean, there was a rumor that potentially the Vikings were interested in bringing Watson in. And I sort of said, like, yeah, that's the way I felt. Like, I've been a Vikings fan since I was, 8 years old, I think 8 or 9 years old, since, like I said, Warren Moon was the quarterback. And honestly, if they'd have gone and done something similar, gave away multiple picks and mortgaged their future, and done whatever they needed to do to get Deshaun Watson on the team with the situation that he's in and with the kind of stuff that's going on around him, I would have just been like, nah, I'm done with the Vikings for now. Because for me personally, and again, like I said, I'm not saying you're wrong or that other people are wrong. It's just me and how I process it and how I think. To me, relationships, for example, are super important. So, I don't want to just people that I meet in this industry and have friendships with, I don't want to just use them. I don't want to just use them for some clout or for some, like, I want to, I'm going to use their name, or I'm going to do this or do that. I actually want to have a relationship with people. And if people trust me with something, or, engage with me, I want to be respectful and stuff like that. So relationships and people matter to me more than like numbers or like bottom line or whatever sort of thing. So for me, like, respect and trust and things like that are really important. And I feel like, the way that
it's tough. It's a tough situation. The
Yeah.
only thing that he was found innocent in a court of law, I guess, as far as that goes. But the only thing that I don't really like, go so, I guess, negative on now is that Randy Moss was the poster boy for a troubled kid, for someone who just was trouble everywhere he went. He was a locker room nightmare. Notre Dame threw him out a handful. He had to go to Marshall to graduate. And if you look at Randy Moss now, how he changed his life around from when he was a kid to what he is now, he is the reason why I don't give up on people anymore. He's the person.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we should be giving up on anybody, really. But again, for me, it's down to the fact of how Watson has treated this. He's never once shown contrition or concern from what I've seen. His only sort of outward thing has been almost like, told you, I knew I would get away.
Yeah.
I knew, good for me. I'm glad this went to court and stuff. And it's like, okay, it doesn't show any sort of remorse, or even just okay, I could have done things better. I'm sure, the fact that 22 different lawsuits are filed, I mean, you could have done something better. Let's be honest. There's something went wrong somewhere. And it's like, he wasn't found innocent. He was just, there wasn't enough to convict. And even we all know that, we know in America, but also in the UK, sexual misconduct and those kind of situations, very few of them even go to court. And of the ones that go to court, there's only a 1 or 2 or 3% chance that they actually get successfly indicted and stuff like that. So I think that it is, like you said, it's a really tricky situation. There's so many moving parts, and it is really complicated. So, but it is one of those things. It's very, very tough to distinguish the NFL side of it and just the pure football side of it from, and it just depends. Like I said, absolutely. I respect people. And there's a lot of people that feel that way, that are like, hey, it's just a game. I just want to play the game. I want to use it to distract myself from reality, or distract myself from my day-to-day life or whatever. So I don't care what they did as a person. I just want to play the game. So I understand that. I respect that. It's just not something that I'm personally comfortable with or willing to do for me, but I don't want to, judge anybody else.
I saw the reaction of all the, the female analysts on Twitter and the people, and I get how it impacted so many people's lives. And the whole time everything was going, where there's smoke, there's fire. We all know there's something going on there, So, but I can't. I wasn't there. I'm not around anywhere. For him to not use the team facility trainers and him to go off on his own and find people to do this stuff, and then when there's a text message involved and everything else. It's just I know something was wrong, but at the same time, it's he's not on the Dolphins, which is my favorite team, and so I gotta let everybody else worry about their problem, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know, but on the football side of things, they also got Amari Cooper. They got they franchise tag David Njoku, which another guy like the O.J. Howard class of tight ends. I loved him. Hopefully that works out for the Browns as far as hopefully he pans out. So we'll see, but. This was terrible. On the Buccaneers, Tom Brady. Everybody was putting Tom Brady out like, oh, he retired. They were putting him out for give me a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick, joking around. And I wouldn't even pay a 4th round pick for a retired player. So I kind of I didn't take advantage of it. And hindsight being 2020, if I would have accepted 7 league trades of people put 4th round pick for Tom Brady, where I'd be sitting right now with having probably the number 1 or top 12 quarterback anyway in the league. Top 7 quarterback in the league with, as for a 4th round pick on top of the quarterbacks already had, would be awesome.
Yeah.
But Leonard Fournette just signed a 3-year, $21 million deal. He's back. Russell Gage is going to fill a big spot in this offense, I think, until Chris Godwin gets back. He's probably going to take the AB role at least anyway. So Chris Godwin did sign a 3-year contract.
Yep.
They're back to pretty much they're landed on their feet and moving forward
Yeah.
now. So
Yep.
the Cardinals, James Conner, which is great to have him back. I'm not sure he's going to produce like he did in last year, but Zach, I just traded Zach Ertz away in a league for peanuts because I thought they're going to bring somebody else in, a younger player, and he signs this 3-year, $31 million contract. I'm like, son of a bitch! Like,
Oh,
yeah, it was a terrible. I
yeah.
got Amir Smith Marset and like 2 third-round picks for Zach Ertz, and now I'm like, I thought for sure they were going to bring in a tight end, like somebody else. And sometimes if I would have took that chance and made those, I do like Amir Smith Marset, even though I know he's not anywhere near the caliber of Zach Ertz, but
Yeah.
it is what it is for return yards and stuff like that too. And it's so they anyway, it is what it is. I lost on that one. The Chargers, Mike Williams, 3 years, $60 million. That was a great signing for them. He fits that offense awesome. They got Gerald Everett also for 2-year, $12 million. The Chiefs, Chad Henne, they got Corey Coleman. Is just he hasn't appeared in the game in 2018, but they got Juju, who's a big upgrade over Mecole Hardman.
Yeah.
So that's
Yep.
I'm still thinking that Juju's only going to be a wide receiver 3, mid-range wide receiver 3. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Nobody's
Juju-
flourished on
Juju's
that
just-
offense in the third
Yeah,
receiver.
Juju is just another one of those guys that I've never been particularly high on. So I'm not. Again, it doesn't really move the needle much either way for me. I
Okay.
think it's his best possible scenario. Like he's landed in a great spot, and I could easily see him doing really well. I don't think he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver. I don't think. I wouldn't assume that he's a top 24 wide receiver even, but I mean, certainly somebody that I could see being a useful starter week to week, because he is a talented guy. He is still pretty young and there is a need in that offense. So, I mean, Kelsey's getting older, it's one of those things where, again, it's very similar to me to the OJ Howard thing. Whoever was sitting with Juju up until now is probably the truther in the league.
Mhm.
And so now they're going to want, if they're going to get rid of him or move off him, they're going to want a king's ransom, and I'm not willing to pay that. So you can't really buy low anymore, because he's with the Chiefs. So even if he doesn't, people are going to say they're going to put 2 and 2 together, and get 22, and they're just not going to want to, they're going to want the king's ransom for him. So I don't think you can really buy low.
No.
If you have him and you are kind of done with him and you're kind of sick of him, it's a good sell high opportunity possibly. But for me, he's probably just a hold most likely.
I thought he was going to some shitty team, so I sold him last year for like Michael Carter and a couple picks, and I'm like,
I like Michael Carter a lot.
I do too. I think they're pretty much. I think they're somewhat even, but I think the upside for Juju is so much more. Just if something does happen, if Kelsey goes down in the middle of the field's wide open for Juju, that's. I mean, it's pay dirt at that point in time.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. Colts, Matt Ryan goes there.
I think it's great for them.
Yeah, I think it's great for them too. I think it's great for Matt Ryan to get out of that system.
Yeah.
Also,
100%.
Mo Ellie Cox. There goes my Kylan Granson shares. So it is what it is. The Commanders get Carson Wentz. I like Carson Wentz. A lot of people badmouth the guy, but everywhere he's been, he does pretty well. Just it's sometimes it's a team around him that doesn't really pan out, but it is what it is. J.D. McKissick loves messing with my Gibson shares here. So Cowboys, Michael Gallup just turned 26. Probably probably start the year on the pup, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens. I love Michael Gallup. I thought he was in another, just like Chris Godwin, another one of my favorite players in the league. I was hoping he'd get a real shot somewhere, but that's injury just kind of messed him up. So James Washington on the Cowboys is somebody I really like. I liked Washington a lot in Pittsburgh. I think he's very underrated. He'll take the Cedric Wilson replacement role. And Dalton Schultz is going to be probably a top, number 1 tight end, of course, the top 12 tight end anyway in this offense. So I liked what the Cowboys did with these moves. These are nice moves that, kind of under the radar stuff, but they really mean a lot.
Yeah,
the
pretty
team.
Savvy.
Yeah, Dolphins, Teddy Bridgewater. I'm not sure that the Dolphins love Tua as much as Tua loves the Dolphins, or I guess that kind of, I don't know how to say that, but to sign someone of Teddy Bridgewater caliber as a backup, it doesn't really say too much of the confidence of Tua Tagovailoa. So
I don't know. I mean, I sort of think that I think the backup quarterback position is incredibly important in an NFL team, and I think that there's a couple teams that are starting to realize that, and they're investing in that because if something does happen to your starter and they go down, and you have just an absolute bum behind them, then it just kind of really derails your season. But, even the 49ers had Jimmy G, who's not that great. When he got injured, Trey Lance was able to step in and keep things going, keep the ship afloat a bit. So I don't know. I think I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is anybody's answer. So for me, I don't think that they brought him in to be like competing with Tua for the starting job or anything. I think that they just wanted a competent, good backup. I think he's better than Jacoby Brissett,
Yes.
who they had as the backup, and he's gone. So I don't think that, I don't think that they're looking at like, oh, well, if Tua doesn't pan out in the first couple of weeks, because for me, my assumption would be they're going to try and make it work with Tua, but if he doesn't work out, then if he's like really sucking and their team's sucking, they're better just, it's Mike McDaniel's first year in the thing. So he's not going to get sacked even if they do bad this year. It's going to his first year there. So if Tua sucks, the 2023 draft class for quarterbacks is better than the 2022. So just let him suck and, get a high pick and then get a new quarterback and try it again next year or something. I think, I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater is a big, competition for Tua. I think they're going to try and make it work with Tua, because I honestly think Tua is a pretty good quarterback. I think he's had a pretty weird, rough run, like to start his career here, but I think it'll be interesting to see what they can do with him, what Mike McDaniel can kind of scheme up there. I'm a big Mike McDaniel fan, so I'm pretty excited to see what they do there in Miami.
Yeah, it's I just feel like they know that I honestly think that if Tua doesn't pan out and they're going to get crushed by the Bills and a couple other teams that possibly they always go 1-1 versus Patriots for whatever reason. I have no idea how they beat the Patriots. Every year, one game, but it happens.
Like they're the Patriots bogey team.
Yeah, I'm looking to join Bill's Mafia because I'm just so sick of like being a Dolphins fan and losing all the time. But I just feel like at some point in time, if they don't, every coach wants to win. They're not going to be like, oh well, I'm losing. I'm just going to leave Tua in there to suck. They have a good option with Teddy, so they have something to move on. From. But like you said, Mike McDaniel, he handpicked Chase Edmonds to come over here on this team as one of the running backs. So he likes him, and they 2-year, $12 million contract for a running back is a pretty nice setup. Raheem Mostert, he had a pretty gruesome injury before, so I'm not sure what how effective he's going to be. And then you got Trent Sherfield, Preston Williams, Cedric Wilson. I like Cedric Wilson, but I'm not sure the rest of the guys, Trent Sherfield and Preston Williams, are anything.
Yeah.
But even Cedric Wilson's going to be number 4 in the offense, I think, behind Waddle, Parker, and Gesicki. So, who knows? They signed Gesicki, which I like. I'm a big Gesicki fan. Eagles, Boston Scott, Greg Walker, Zach Pascal, which is Peter Howard's favorite guy. You can talk about him tomorrow. He's going to tell you how much Zach Pascal's awesome. Falcons, Mariota, the GOAT, Marcus Mariota.
Yes.
I just joked
the Hawaiian heartthrob.
He won me so much money at Oregon, like betting with my friends and betting with other people, and like you bet the national championship game for a parlay I had. I'll never forget him, and I'll love him forever just because of how much money I won on that college stuff. But Cordell Patterson, they brought him back. So Damian Williams, there's some moves. 49ers, nothing really special here. Jermichael Hasty, Ray McLeod. The Giants, Tyrod Taylor. We talk about good backups. He's one of the best in the league as far as backups are concerned. Running back Matt Breida, you saw he had some juice in the tank still with Miami last year. Tight end Ricky Seals-Jones, nothing special, but he's a body. The Jaguars, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Laquan Treadwell, Evan Ingram. I mean, they are all in to make. Too bad these guys all cover the middle of the field. They don't have any stretch receivers, but it's they are looking to get Trevor Lawrence some serious weapons here. I think I'm not sure they're being in win now mode is the way to be for the Jaguars, but at least they're going to have some options anyway.
Yeah. At least they can be in not suck now mode.
Move the ball and not kill Trevor, right? And they got a couple offensive linemen too.
Yeah.
So the Jets, Joe Flacco, I don't know how he stays in the league, but everybody says he's elite at one point in time. He's not elite anymore. Tevin Coleman, Braxton Berrios re-signed. I like Braxton Berrios. He's a good wide receiver 3 as far as I'm concerned. Wide receiver 4, but wide receiver potential in this offense. So I guess I'm going to ask, is he wide receiver 3 or 4 in your book, or is he way down the list somewhere?
I mean, I like him, but I think that unless your team, unless your league has return yardage and all that kind of stuff in him, he's probably fairly limited because obviously Elijah Moore, love Elijah Moore. He's one of my favorite dudes. Corey Davis is good. He just got injured, banged up. And then it wouldn't surprise me if they drafted somebody else, if they draft another receiver, then Braxton Berrios is wide receiver 4 or something on that team. So I mean, they did bring in Tyler Conklin as well. They brought in CJ Uzama, so they actually have some tight ends now, whereas they didn't really have any tight ends last year. So I wouldn't look at like building my offense around Braxton Berrios in fantasy. That's for sure. But I mean, he's a nice guy to have on the bench because like when injuries happen and stuff like that, fill in like a nice little mid-season bye week fill in.
He's a great bye week fill. Like when we have 6 teams playing in the bye week, and
yes,
that's exactly what he's good for. So I mean,
I started him a couple good few places last year.
They got Denzel Mims. Like I don't know what are you talking about?
What more can you want?
CJ Uzama, I heard he took this place for at kind of a discount to be with his girlfriend's Kay Adams from the NFL Network, is what I heard. So he's got a 3-year, $24 million contract with the Jets to be closer to his schmoopy. So
very nice.
Yeah, Lions, David Blau, and Tim Boyle. DJ Chark went there, which makes 0 sense. He's a speed receiver, and they can't really throw the ball too much. But maybe looking towards the future, who sees? Who knows? Josh Reynolds, 2-year deal. Garrett Griffin, I haven't heard of him, so I have no idea who that even is. But Packers, Aaron Rodgers. Too bad he comes in and he loses Devontae Adams, but it is what it is. Allen Lazard is on a restricted free agent tender for $4 million. Robert Tonyan just re-signed. I'm not sure what to think about this offense anymore. I don't view Rodgers like I did before with Devontae Adams on the field, but he's going to make things happen. He did when he didn't have Adams on the field for a couple games, but we'll see what happens. Panthers, Deonta Foreman, Rashard Higgins, which I was in love with Rashard Higgins back in the day. I'm sorry, I don't know why he just never really panned out, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Moore, 3-year contract. Brandon Zylstra. So I'm happy about DJ Moore lock-in, but I wish DJ Moore would have went somewhere else and got a little bit less money maybe to win a championship somewhere, but it is what it is. Patriots, Brian Hoyer, Ty Montgomery, James White, Jacob Hollister, nothing really special there. Raiders, Garrett Gilbert, Amir Abdullah, Brandon Bolden, Jacob Johnson, and Devontae Adams kind of fits in this conversation somewhere, but he was college teammates with Derek Carr, so they were best, like they hang out in the summertime. They're like best friends and stuff. So this is something that Adam said. He goes, he had dreams about going to to Los Angeles to play with Carr. So this is something I'm kind of glad to see. I don't think. What if he didn't get along with Rodgers? What if he hated Rodgers? They were just good together on the field.
Yeah,
you never know.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to dislike Rodgers, I imagine. He seems like a bit of a diva, to be honest. I mean, he doesn't even get along with his own family, so I can't imagine that he's the easiest guy in the world to get along with.
No, it seems like
I think it must get. I mean, I think it must just get exhausting sometimes, to be like, dude, you're always making it about you. Like, chill out, man. Even didn't Zadarius Smith? He just signed with the Vikings. I think he was like throwing some shade at Rodgers, kind of like discreetly there, like saying, he really appreciated watching Kirk Cousins just get on with it with KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen instead of sitting and like moping on Instagram all the time, like all this kind of stuff. So I think he was having a couple little pot shots at Aaron Rodgers maybe. So yeah, it could just be maybe like you say, some of the guys aren't as enamored with playing with him after a while, after the shine wears off of him being a superstar, because he's obviously supremely talented. I think he's just a bit of a diva.
Yeah, right. The Rams, I'm not happier for anybody in the NFL than I am Matthew Stafford to go from getting your ass handed to you every week in Detroit to come here and win a Super Bowl with the Rams. There's nobody more happy in the world than his wife with this 3 years, $129 million extension to stay in LA forever. That's got to be the best feeling in the world. Then you get Allen Robinson in the deal too. I mean, so now you get replaced with OBJ. So you get this offense is really kind of shaping up together. So hopefully OBJ comes back somewhere in the middle of the year next year and completes this offense. So Ravens, they love fullbacks. They got Patrick Ricard. I have no idea why they assign fullbacks every year. It's the only team in the league I think that still uses fullbacks besides the 49ers.
The 49ers.
Besides the 49ers, yeah. My favorite player in the whole league from the Saints, Jameis Winston, 2-year, $28 million deal. I love Jameis Winston. He's my bae. So I'm super happy that he got signed here. The Seahawks got lucky and got Drew Lock. So they got Noah Harris and Noah Fant also to go with Drew Lock, but I think that's going to change soon. Rashard Penny signed again. Will Dissly, Noah Fant is gone. He's there, but he's going to be gone, I think. Or somebody's going to be gone. And as far as tight ends go, they're not going to keep all these guys. Steelers, Dwayne Haskins, Mitch Trubisky. What do you think about Trubisky here? because I'm getting in my trade offers, people are laughing at me, and some people are, I don't want to sell them as a low ball, like trying to get rid of them or anything like that. What would you, if somebody had Trubisky, you needed a quarterback, what would you offer for him?
Honestly, I wouldn't want to do anything more than like a second for him
Mhm.
because of the fact that the money they gave him is not much. And
Yeah.
you could easily see them possibly still drafting someone, I think it's probably like an insurance thing. Like, I think a lot of these moves so far have been insurance things from a lot of these teams. They're kind of like, hey, we've got a dude. We don't need to panic. But at the same time, if Malik Willis is still sitting there at 20 or Kenny Pickett is still sitting there, you know what I mean? I don't think that precludes them from pulling the trigger. And then that happens, it's just a matter of when, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
if Trubisky's sucking it up halfway through the season, do they just throw the rookie in, or do they just let him play out the first year and then get the other guy ready for the year two? So I don't know. I quite like Trubisky. I always had a soft spot for him because I feel like he got a really raw deal. I think, Nagy's a terrible head coach,
Hmm.
and it was just a mess of a system there in Chicago. I think he's a really underrated athlete. I think he's really mobile. He's got good legs. I think he can make things happen, and I think that'll cover up a lot of the offensive line problems that the Steelers have. So I think, Najee will be awesome. He'll get a lot of, like a lot of use still. I think Deontay will be great, obviously, still.
Right.
Because, Trubisky's not like a deep, deep down the field thrower of the football. So
Right.
might be a
You
bit frustrating for like Claypool stands, but I think in general, I'm certainly intrigued by him, but I wouldn't be like, oh, here's a mid first for him or anything like that, because I don't think that they obviously signed him to a 2-year, what was it, 14 million?
$14.25 million
Yeah,
deal,
like that's,
up to 27 with incentives. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's exactly that. It's like, if you come in and surprise us all and you're like killing it, then you could earn some good money. But if you're not, then you're basically almost getting like backup money,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too crazy about it. Like,
What
again, if it's a 14 or 16 team league, needs must, then you got to go out and swing for the fences sometimes. But I mean, in a normal 12 team or a 10 team league, I'm certainly not like wanting to give more than like a second, or maybe a second and like a player you don't need or something like that. But I wouldn't be wanting to like give a mid first or anything crazy for him.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I like Trubisky also. We'll see what I'm with the pro days that Willis and Pickett just had. I'm not sure that he's going to last to where the Steelers pick at. So
Yeah.
they'll get somebody
Yeah.
else. They'll get somebody else. I think they're going to have no choice but to draft a quarterback. But Dwayne Haskins is obviously not the answer. That even though Tomlin says he likes him, they would have gone after Trubisky if they liked Haskins so much. So
Yeah. I think if you do like Trubisky and you believe in him, I think the time is now, because you can kind of play that card of like, oh, they might draft someone and get a lower deal. I think if the draft passes and they don't draft someone, then I think his price goes up. I think people are gonna be like, oh, he's obviously the dude. You're gonna need to give me a first and something else, whatever. So if you are a believer and you do want to get him, I think now is trying to get a low deal for him.
yeah. Texans, Jeff Driscoll, Royce Freeman, who I don't know why he never panned out in the NFL. I love Royce Freeman. Daria Gumbawale, I think he's another fantastic backup in this league. 2-year, $3 million. Chris Conley, another guy that everybody kind of was a sweetheart on earlier in his career, just isn't panning out. And Pharaoh Brown, which, he's nothing significant here. But real fast, Davis Mills. How do you feel about Davis Mills?
I really like Davis Mills a lot.
Okay. Do you like him because he threw a lot of touchdowns last year. Do you think is he capable of throwing more yards, or, having more yards, having the same touchdown stability? Do you think that he's really, like, I'm not a tape guy. So when you watch these films, what do you see in Davis Mills?
Well, I just saw him like improve so much in his first season. If you watch the first couple of games, you can see a lot of mistakes and, I a lot of rookie errors and things like that. But I think that relationship that he had with Pep Hamilton,
Yeah.
being his quarterback's coach, and now who's staying as the offensive coordinator, to me, that's massive. That's a big reason why I like him so much, is because of that relationship with Pep Hamilton, because like any rookie quarterback, they need I'm really a big believer, and I think Trevor Lawrence and these guys prove that, like, you can be the most talented dude in the world. If you have a crap situation and a horrible coaching staff, you're going to struggle. You're not, very few rookie quarterbacks are good enough where they can lift an entire franchise by themselves without some help and some support. So, I think the nice thing is that the expectations are nice and low. So I don't think he has that pressure. I don't think the Houston fans are like, hey, we need a Super Bowl right now. What are you doing? I don't think that's happening. I don't think the media is doing that. I think everyone's just like, there's no pressure on the dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's just out there living his best life, basically.
Yes.
And I think that the injury that he come off of, I mean, he was a really highly recruited dude and he was really highly thought of. I think he had an injury. He didn't stay in school. If he'd have stayed in the school and had a great year last year, he'd probably be the number one quarterback prospect for this class. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think there's a lot to like there. And I think up until these last couple of weeks, he was a nice buy low opportunity. I think now people are like, oh, wait a second. Deshaun Watson's gone. They've got a couple of firsts to play with. Hold on a second. Maybe I want a bit more for him.
And none of these teams that had a quarterback, like I was worried about the Browns trading Baker Mayfield to the Texans in a trade.
Yeah.
I was kind of worried about that. And because of the fact they didn't move on or bring anybody else in and import anybody from via trade, I'm kind of thinking they actually, I'm going to tell you a secret. Lovie Smith is one of my favorite coaches in the league. The guy had never had a losing season with the Bears. Yeah, I mean, but I think that he had so many offensive coordinators that weren't the Mike Martzes that were kind of messing up the system, and the Jay Cutler with no offensive line and no receivers, and kind of stuff like that. I think Lovie Smith, if he had a good offensive coordinator, a good offense, he would have won at least a Super Bowl in Chicago. But they just kind of got sick of the winning seasons with nothing. Kind of like the Mike Tomlin did actually win a Super Bowl. But I love Lovie Smith. I think he's one of my favorite coaches. And I honestly think that Lovie Smith was like kind of the brains behind the curtain of the winning of what was going on last year with Davis Mills improvement. So that's just me because I love Lovie Smith. But
he's got a great beard. He's like, his beard game is on point.
All right, exactly.
But yeah, no, he's a cool dude. And for me, I like Davis Mills a lot. I think when you watch him the last couple of weeks of the season, he looked really good, like really sharp. I mean, he was playing better than any of the other rookie quarterbacks, like all of these guys that were way higher touted than him. And I'm not saying that he's going to have a better career than Trevor Lawrence or a better career than Zach Wilson, but I think that if you're a super flex needy team, if you're a quarterback needy team in a super flex league right now, I'd rather go kick the tires on Davis Mills than Mitchell Trubisky, personally.
I got both of them in like 5 leagues, so that's
yeah. Well, there you go. Because I like him. I think he's got a lot of potential, and they seem to like him. Which, like you said, Lovie Smith's a smart guy, and Pep Hamilton is like a quarterback whisperer. I mean, he helped Justin Herbert his rookie year. He helped Andrew Luck. He's one of those dudes I really respect and really pay attention to. Where is he and what's he doing and what's he saying? And if they were sort of like, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But I mean, obviously they've not come right out and been like, he is the dude, he's our franchise quarterback. But they've said certain things that make me think that they really respect him. They really like what they've got in him. Yeah. And even like I heard Lovie Smith say, there's many holes, as you can see on the roster, that I'm concerned about, but quarterback isn't one of them. Things like that to that effect. So I think they give him at least 2022 to see what he's got. And with those extra draft, the extra draft capital and things like that, who knows? Maybe they splash out and get a nice receiver in the second round or something. I doubt they go in the first round because they have so many needs on the team.
Yeah.
But if they get there's some really good talent in this receiving class, and I really like Nico Collins. So if they got Nico Collins, they get somebody else in the second round, it could be a pretty interesting, pretty exciting year for him,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Davis Mills was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
Exactly.
Your Vikings, they signed Kirk Cousins, and they got Sean Mannion just to make sure that if something goes wrong with Kirk Cousins, they can, make sure Sean Mannion can hold up the fort here. So that's
that was unnecessary.
I
thought we were friends.
There's some trades that go on in my leagues, and we evaluated a team most of the time in our league. But I kept you here already for an hour and a half, so I don't want to. Well, I said, oh shit, it's 2 hours already. I was gonna look at the clock. So I'm gonna let you go, man. Thanks for coming on. This was a great show. Thanks for all the great conversation early on, and all your smarts, your knowledge, all your input, and all this stuff that went on to free agency. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It really means a lot to me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I apologize for talking too long, but that's what happens, You get like, give me an inch and I'll take a mile.
I told you, some of these shows go 45 minutes and some go 3 or 4 hours. So it just kind of happens. It happens on every show. It's everybody. This is what we do. It's our hobby. If this was golf and I was a golf dude, I wouldn't be pissed off if the golf game went too long or, my hunting trip went too far, So, hey, my podcast went a little bit long. There's bigger problems in life. And, that's like, I usually say to everybody on the way out, thanks for coming on the show as an Irish blessing that used to hang on my grandpa's basement all the time. May your home always be too small for all of your friends. That's something that he always lived by, and making sure you get a lot of family and friends around you all the time. So
Awesome.
just go on the way out. Just kind of tell everybody like where they could find you at, what you do, and all that kind of stuff one more time, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can catch me on Twitter at FFEvolution. Dynasty Debates, you can find that on any of your favorite podcast listening platforms. We drop episodes every week. At the minute, we're dropping episodes like every day, pretty much. Building your big board series, getting ready for the rookie drafts, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I do some writing over at Dynasty Nerds. I do Superflex tight end premium rankings for them as well. If you're interested in Dynasty Nerds, like a Nerd Herd subscription, membership, film room, all that good stuff that they've got, you can use the code FFEvolution, get 15% off. So yeah, all good. And yeah, thanks again, man, for having me on. It was awesome. It was a quick 2 hours.
I got a lot of days off, and I'm on my days off. They entail European time. So if anybody ever backs out on one of your shows, can't get a hold of somebody, whatever, feel free to like say, hey, I need you as a guest, or let me know. I'll be more than happy to jump on. All right.
Awesome. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Have a good one. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.